The rise of a family of immortal cultivators. Greetings, fellow multiversal adventurers. It's an honor to have you back in this saga that has us all hooked. Official channel statement: this story is 100% epic fiction, so please don't attempt real magic. The results aren't guaranteed and insurance won't cover it. The rights to this masterpiece belong entirely to its brilliant original author. We are just a barge sharing it with you. Do you want to keep being part of this amazing community? Join our ninja army of subscribers on YouTube and give this content a like. And for true fans, our Patreon has exclusive ninjutsu waiting for you. Chapter 1: Fire breaks out on Kingentropy Mountain. Yizhao, Kingentropy Mountain. Below the mountain, a network of villages crisscrossed, and people toiled through the fields. Yet, the mountain itself, shrouded in mist, felt like a fairyland, a breathtaking sight that drew the gaze upward. But soon, the mountain erupted in flames, obscured by dark clouds. A white curtain of light enveloped the mountain, preventing the flames and black smoke from spreading. A group of men, all dressed in purple robes, wielded swords. With a flick of their hands, a magical incantation instantly ignited, and every building in the mountain was reduced to ash. After searching for several minutes and confirming no survivors, the group fled, leaving the black smoke lingering. The curtain of light gradually lost its luster, its supports shattered, sending black smoke drifting into the air. Even as the smoke gradually dissipated, no one on the path below paused to observe. On the mountain, in the charred earth, a young man poked his head out, looked around, and looked up at the sky, only to see that the black smoke had dissipated. After confirming that there was no one there, he slowly climbed up from the ground. Seeing corpses all around, the man frowned, feeling distressed, but he also knew that this was not the time to be sad. He hurriedly searched everywhere and called out. Hearing the young man's call, a somewhat fat man in a pond jumped out from the water, pinching his nose. "Brother Zimin." The fat man came out and saw corpses all around, and spoke to the man in tears. When he saw Wang Zimin, he felt like he had found a support, and he sat down on the ground, wailing loudly, not caring about his wet body. "Okay, stop crying, this is not the time to cry." Wang Zimin shouted angrily, and hit him on the butt with a cyclone in his hand, shaking him up. "Hurry up and see if there is anyone alive, hiding, or escaping." After hearing this, the little fat man quickly got up and dispersed with Wang Zimin, looking around and calling. Then he saw a boy of about 13 or 14 years old walking out of a nearby cave. Although there were still traces of smoke and charcoal on the boy's face, it can still be seen that he has a delicate face and is quite handsome. The boy's name is Wang. He was still working in the company yesterday, but he woke up unexpectedly because of the heat. When he looked up, he found himself in a fire scene, with corpses and ruins everywhere. When he woke up, the group of purple-clothed people had not left yet. Naturally, he was alert and hid in this cave to observe the movements. He found that he had traveled to a world of immortal heroes. The group of purple-clothed people were actually flying swords, and the magic spells in their hands were shining. At this time, the memories of the original owner came back. The original owner shared his name, but their fate was different. This place, called Kingentropy Mountain, was the seat of the Wang family, a family of immortal cultivators. Wang was the third son of the Wang family patriarch. As the direct heir of the family, although not the eldest, he was not far behind in cultivation. However, just yesterday, the Five Spirit sect and Shangzhuang Valley had a final battle. The Wang family, with their long-standing ties to the Five Spirits sect, were naturally implicated. Many of the Wang family's disciples also cultivated within the Five Spirit sect. However, the Wang family was not considered a major clan within the Five Spirits sect, merely a dependent family. Originally, the Wang family had not participated in the war. The talented disciples of the clan had gone to the Five Spirits sect, leaving only those with less talent within the clan. However, in yesterday's battle, the Five Spirit sect was crushed and annihilated by Shangzhuang Valley. In their attempt to eradicate their influence, Shangzhuang Valley led to the massacre of the Wang family of Kingentropy Mountain. However, there are quite a few families that rely on the Five Spirits Valley, and Shangzhuang Valley only sent a few outer disciples and a few inner disciples to the Wang family, so these two survivors were able to escape. After Wang received these memories, he was discovered by the two men and had to go out. When the two saw him, they rushed to treat him. After a long time, the two men were relieved to see that Wang was fine, and they counted the number of people everywhere, looking for traces of survivors. However, they didn't know that the original owner was dead, and that they were no longer the original Wangda. After half a day, no one was seen. A family of 400 or 500 people disappeared overnight, leaving only 3 people sitting on the ground, as if they were in another world. The little fat boy was obviously a little fragile, and he kept crying, mumbling something in his mouth. Wang Lin, you're already in your 20s, and you're still so useless. Look at Wangda, he's only 14, and he won't be like you. Wang Zimin was quite old, 29 this year, and had reached the 5th level of key training, which was considered good within the family. However, his talent wasn't exceptional, so he couldn't enter the 5-spirit sect. However, after a long time in the clan, managing family affairs, his mind had clearly matured. As for Wangda, it wasn't that he was mentally strong, but rather that he hadn't yet recovered from the effects of his time travel. After sitting in a daze for a long time, Wang Zimin regained his composure. Now that there were only 3 of them left in the clan, he was the oldest and naturally shouldered the responsibility. Although Wang Lin and Wang Zimin were not much different, they both knew that their lack of talent had prevented them from entering the 5-spirit valley. In this world, strength was everything. Wangda, on the other hand, was still young, possessed far greater talent than either of them, and was the son of the previous patriarch. So, Wang Zimin and Wang Lin discussed it, and they immediately knelt, acknowledging Wangda as the patriarch of the Congentropi Mountain Wang clan, asking him to lead them in restoring the Wang clan's prosperity. Wangda felt helpless. While he possessed a higher talent than them, he was still young and only at the 2nd level of key training. Meanwhile, any outer disciple in Upper Zhuanggu was at or above the 8th level. Originally, Wangda had simply traveled through time and space, holding little affection for this immortal cultivation family. It was only because of the original owner's memories that he had taken over their body. After some thought, he decided to take them along. Immortal cultivation family system binding in progress. A voice echoed in Wangda's mind. There truly was a system essential for time travelers. But what did this immortal cultivation family system mean? Was I destined to be the patriarch of this Wang family? Okay, I promise, but you must obey my orders. I have the confidence to revive the family, Wangda said, noting the 2 men still kneeling. While these 2 were also members of the Wang family, their family was larger, so they weren't particularly familiar with Wangda. They only knew that he was the patriarch's son, and therefore, naturally, his education, knowledge, and cultivation were superior to theirs. Hearing his words, they felt a surge of confidence. System binding complete. Wangda heard the voice and immediately clicked on it with his consciousness, then saw a picture that only he could see. Family location, Congentropi Mountain, abandoned, family head, Wangda. Family size, level 0, level 4, family level, bottom. Family members, 3. Family contribution, 9. Family reputation, 1698. After seeing this interface, Wangda was a little confused and asked in his heart, what do the values in the brackets mean? A mechanical voice sounded, this is the highest level the family has ever reached. For example, the family size, before it was abandoned, was level 4. Wangda knew it in his heart and clicked on these values one by one. He found that they could all be operated, but there was obviously nothing at the moment, because all functions required contribution points to be added. How do I get this family contribution? Wangda asked. This contribution is mainly provided by the daily actions of the people in the family, whether it is cultivation, planting cultivation resources, collecting cultivation resources, going out for training, and other things that strengthen the family. It can be provided every day. It seems that I still need to accumulate some contribution first, but there are only 3 people in the family at present, so the daily contribution is obviously not much. Chapter 2, Fleeing to Fanfic to avoid a sharp edge. Brother Zimin, what do you suggest about our current situation? Although Wangda accepted the original owner's memories, his understanding of this world remained limited to his original memories, so he turned to the older Wang Zimin. To rebuild our clan now, we obviously need to descend the mountain and select talented disciples from among the clan members below to bring them back to the mountain to rebuild the clan. However, the clan descends the mountain every year to select, and if they continue down the mountain now, I'm afraid there won't be many capable of cultivation. We only have a few who were originally planned to be brought up the mountain this year, but something delayed them. This can serve as a way to preserve the seed for our clan, Wang Zimin said. No, I think the disciples from Shangzhuang Valley haven't gone far yet. They might be patrolling the surrounding area. If we go down the mountain to recruit disciples now, we might run into them again. I think we should find a place to hide and explore the situation first. At least wait until the disciples from Shangzhuang Valley have withdrawn and we understand the situation outside before we can make any plans, Wang said. Wang Zimin slapped his forehead. I was indeed careless. I definitely can't go down the mountain and alert those mortal disciples at this time. Brother Zimin, do you have a place to hide? Wang asked. Not really. I manage cultivation-related matters within the clan every day and rarely leave the mountain gate. The only times I go out are for trials or to visit other clans, Wang Zimin said. I do know a fellow Taoist who's on good terms with me. We could go hide there for a while, said the chubby Wang Lin next to him. Oh, is he also a disciple of a certain clan, or sect? Wang asked. He's a wandering cultivator who lives in Fanfic Mountain, about 300 miles away from us, Wang Lin said. A lone cultivator? Wang pondered. If it were truly a certain immortal cultivation family or sect, it would be difficult for them to avoid it. The Five Spirit sect and Shangzhuang Valley were the two major sects in eastern Yizhao, and their conflict had drawn smaller sects and families into the conflict, forcing them to take sides. Families allied with the Five Spirit sect, like the Wang family, would likely be spared, and families allied with Shangzhuang Valley would likely be left alone. On the other hand, lone cultivators, having chosen no side, naturally stayed out of the conflict. However, most lone cultivators were wary, especially of their own family's descendants. So the three of them spent half a day gathering the remaining cultivation resources from the mountain gate that hadn't been burned, and extinguishing any fires that were still burning. Wang then instructed Wang Zimin to store the family's remaining resources, secret manuals, and other supplies in a large storage ring and bury it beneath a tomb behind Concentrapy Mountain. Carrying only a few spirit stones, the three of them left the mountain gate and soared towards Fanfic Mountain on their swords. At the foot of Concentrapy Mountain, smoke still rose from the villages, and the fields were well groomed. These were all descendants of the Wang family, though they lacked talent, forcing them to become mortals. They established villages at the foot of their family's mountain, hoping their children would possess talent and enter the family's cultivation realm. The struggles of the immortal cultivators did not involve mortals. Mortals were the foundation of the nation. Therefore, this rule existed throughout the Chen Kingdom, unsupervised and universally adhered to. To the immortal cultivators, mortals simply did not exist in the same world. After a sleepless night, the three of them had reached the border of Dongdao County, where Concentrapy Mountain lay. Fanfic Mountain, a small hill on the border of Dongdao County, was not particularly rich in spiritual energy, at least not by a long shot compared to Concentrapy Mountain. Naturally, some families looked down on it, leading to the gathering of independent cultivators, each occupying a plot. However, these independent cultivators were not united, coexisting peacefully on the mountain, though murder and robbery were common occurrences. Wang Lin, leading Wang and Wang Zimin, arrived at a cave at the back of the mountain and quietly called out as he approached. Fairies hu iao, fairies hu iao. The two people behind him suddenly changed their expressions. They hadn't expected the Taoist friend Wang Lin knew to be a female cultivator. They just didn't know what she looked like. They wondered if she'd mistaken Wang Lin for a chubby girl. After calling out twice, a figure emerged from the cave. Dressed in a green dress and a red skirt, they walked lightly, holding a long sword. Their expression was a bit puzzled. Who was calling her? Wang and Wang Zimin looked up. The figure wasn't tall, but rather good-looking. A wooden hairpin graced her hair, unadorned yet charming. Seeing Wang Lin, the woman's frown softened and she stepped forward. But seeing two others behind her, one younger, the other older, she became wary again. As a casual cultivator, she naturally had to be wary, otherwise, she wouldn't have a foothold in Fanfic Mountain. Wang Lin quickly introduced Wang and Wang Zimin and recounted the story of his family's misfortune. The woman's expression finally softened. The eastern region has been experiencing unrest lately. We've also heard about the battle between Shangzhuang Valley and the Five Spirit sect, so your family has also suffered such a devastating loss. Wang Lin and the bamboo fairy were clearly well acquainted. Wang Lin's account of his experiences immediately won the woman's sympathy, and she found shelter for the three of them in an uninhabited cave dwelling on Fanfic Mountain. The owner of this cave was also a wandering cultivator, but due to his nearing death, he passed away there, unable to advance. The three of them took refuge on Fanfic Mountain, where mostly wandering cultivators gathered, naturally avoiding the attention of Shangzong Valley. Wang Lin was familiar with the bamboo fairy, so Wang sent her to gather information. The battle between Shangzong Valley and the Five Spirit Sect was a major event for the entire eastern region of Yizhao. Regardless of the outcome, Wang needed to be informed of the situation and consider future arrangements. Just then, the system's voice rang out, and Wang looked. It was time to collect today's family contribution. With 3 people and running around in the middle of the night, naturally there wasn't much. A total of 3 points, plus the original 9 points, a total of 12 points. Family location, Kinjentropy Mountain, abandoned, family head, Wangda. Family size, level 0, level 4, family level, bottom. Family members, 3. Family contribution, 12. Family reputation, 16, 98. The family contribution area was clearly lit up, so he clicked on it directly. He believed that with this system, he would be able to lead the family to rise in the future. Wang clicked on the family contribution, and then a secondary interface appeared, showing the exchange system. There was a contribution value in the upper left corner. 12. Below were various things that could be exchanged. Low-grade spirit stone X1. 1 medium-grade spirit stone X1. 10 high-grade spirit stone X1. 100 low-level heavenly control technique. 500 low-level immortal destruction technique. 500. Wang discovered that most of the items exchanged here were items. Further back, there were also high-level techniques, various alchemy furnaces, instrument refining furnaces, and extremely expensive items, things that even Wang's predecessor didn't know about. However, the contributions required were too high, and it was obvious that his current self couldn't afford them. Exiting this secondary interface, Wang tried to open other secondary interfaces, but they were obviously not unlocked yet. Wang left first. For now, he still needed to investigate the situation before making any plans. If all else failed, relocating the family to another location in Yizhao was not out of the question. After all, a place was necessary for development and cultivation, otherwise, this system wouldn't work. Just then, Wang Zimin and Wang Lin rushed back from outside to report on the situation outside. Chapter 3. The 3 returned to Kinjentropy Mountain. The situation outside was now of paramount importance, and Wang quickly shut down the system. It turned out that after the fierce battle between Shangzong Valley and the Five Spirit Sect yesterday, Shangzong Valley had suffered heavy casualties, with many cultivators perishing. Subsequently, Shangzong Valley's disciples were dispersed to various locations to eliminate the remnants of the Five Spirit Sect, causing Shangzong Valley's disciples to scatter. Meanwhile, several smaller sects affiliated with Shangzong Valley rebelled, joining forces with smaller sects affiliated with the Five Spirit Sect. They then joined forces with fleeing disciples of the Five Spirit Sect and major clans dissatisfied with Shangzong Valley, killing a Shangzong Valley Grand Elder and the current head. The situation had reversed overnight, with clans and sects still fighting and invading the Shangzong Valley Mountain Gate. The extent of the battle remained unknown. With the outcome uncertain, it would be unwise to rashly choose sides. Wang took the 2 of them to Fangqiu Mountain for a few days to rest and recuperate, waiting for a clearer picture before making plans. During these days of leisure, Wang Zimin and Wang Lin went out daily with the Huayao Ferry to gather information. Wang guided by his previous incarnation's memories, attempted to cultivate, only to discover that cultivation wasn't easy. Although he was only at the 2nd level of key training, it was already a difficult feat for a teenager. However, now that he possessed the system, improving his cultivation should be easy. Wang had collected 9 points of family contribution in 3 days, but it was clearly still not enough to exchange for a low-level cultivation technique, let alone anything else. Even these low-level techniques had been found upon their departure from Kinjentropy Mountain, hidden in the tombs in the back mountains. Even if Wang had accumulated 500 points of contribution, it wouldn't have made any difference in the current situation. He could only hope for the unlocking of other abilities. Recently, with the breach of the Shangzonggu Mountain Gate, the situation in eastern Yizhao began to clarify. The 7 remaining strongest sects had joined forces, hoping to divide up the eastern region, but they were too small and weak. Seeing the fall of the 2 major sects, a major sect in the southeastern corner of Yizhao naturally intervened. The situation in the east became uncertain again. One was the Xiannian sect, which had arrived from the southeast and occupied a large area stretching southeast, while the other was the Seven Sects Alliance, which held the remaining areas. However, for a short period of time, things seemed to settle down. Wang remained unmoved by the downfall of Shangzhuang Valley and the extermination of his clan. He simply thought that now that he had no enemies, he could focus on developing his family. Wang Zimin and Wang Lin, with a look of great revenge, knelt down to the horizon and offered their respects to the clan. Since I've traveled to this Wang family, although I don't have much affection for you, I have inherited the body of my predecessor, and I will naturally do my best to carry forward the family. Wang De simply said this inwardly and pulled the two men to their feet. Now is not the time to weep and offer consolation. What we need to do is to rebuild the family and live up to them, Wang De said, pulling the two men back from their sorrow. The three of them went to the nearby cave to bid farewell to the bamboo fairy. Wang Lin naturally exchanged a few pleasantries, but Wang De, perceptively aware of the woman's remarkable qualities, quietly inquired, "What realm is this Huayao fairy at? She's truly remarkable, having reached the 7th level of key training, far superior to mine," Wang Lin replied. Wang Zimin naturally sensed some of her cultivation, but Wang De was somewhat surprised. Though small in stature, this woman's cultivation surpassed all of theirs, surpassing even the highest of the three, Wang Zimin, by 2 levels. Inviting her would be a significant aid in the family's reconstruction efforts. I see you have a good relationship with her. Now that our family has suffered such a great disaster, why don't you ask her if she's willing to become your Taoist partner and return with us to Congentropi Mountain to develop the family? Wang De quipped with a smile. Wang Lin's expression remained unchanged, a solemn expression on his face. Clan leader, you're right. I originally had this plan, and she didn't explicitly refuse, but simply said she had no plans to find a chaperone. However, the clan elders also disapproved of my marrying a wandering cultivator. But now, with our family in this state, I'm afraid she might look down on me. Wang De was a little surprised. Although Wang Lin looked reckless, he did have considerable understanding of the ways of the world. Wang De remained silent, simply asking him to try and talk to her. Wang Lin evaded the question, saying they could discuss it later. The three of them then flew back towards Congentropi Mountain. The fire on Congentropi Mountain was long gone, and the smoke had long since dissipated, leaving only a desolate landscape. All the buildings were destroyed, with only some simple pieces of refined iron remaining, though they were in tatters. The three spent half a day counting the remaining pieces, finding over 500 taels of refined iron, 2 finished planks of low-grade spiritual wood, 2 black iron alchemy furnaces, and 1 refining furnace. As for the other mundane items, they clearly wouldn't survive the true fire. A spiritual spring still existed on the mountainside, though it had long since become filthy and incapable of providing spiritual support. Wang Zimin also unearthed a stored drink from a tomb in the back mountain. Together with the spirit stones the three men had taken with them, it contained approximately 500 low-grade spirit stones and 13 mid-grade spirit stones. 1 mid-grade spirit stone could be exchanged for 10 low-grade spirit stones, for a total of just over 600 low-grade spirit stones. There were still quite a few elixirs, a legacy of the family's past, the foundation of their existence. The 5 sets of 5 elements cultivation techniques were also the foundation of the family's existence. As for the more rare items, the family's only remaining foundation building elixir had long been looted by disciples from Upper Zhuanggu. A mid-grade magical weapon, the wild cloud dart, had also vanished. What remained were basic cultivation resources, easily enough to accommodate a few novice practitioners. Wang De's current focus was recruiting more disciples, so his system could contribute more, which could naturally be exchanged for scarce resources. The three of them busied themselves on Congentropi Mountain for another 3 days, clearing the debris and burying it in the back hillside. They also cleared some of the rubble and built 3 or 4 simple wooden huts. Suddenly, the family began to resemble one another. They still had some medicinal pills, but it was still not enough. While Congentropi Mountain's spiritual energy was much richer than other mountains, the most crucial element for sustaining a cultivator's cultivation lay in the spirit-gathering array. Cultivation was a cultivator's most fundamental pursuit, the foundation of a sect or family, and the spirit-gathering array was its most fundamental element. There were many types of spirit-gathering arrays, the most cost-effective of which was the 5 elements. This type of spirit-gathering array had a neutral spiritual energy property, making it ideal for beginner cultivators. It was also inexpensive and concentrated, concentrating the spiritual energy. Single attribute spirit gathering arrays, on the other hand, were expensive to purchase. Wang opened the system's second-level contribution screen and browsed through it. Sure enough, there were formations available for purchase. However, a 5-element spirit gathering array covering a half-kilometer radius cost 2,000 contributions, while a simpler one, the size of 3 tables, only cost 200. Wang only had 30 contributions, which was clearly insufficient. So Wang ordered the two of them to split up. He took Wang Zimin to clean up the spiritual spring, while Wang Lin took over 600 spirit stones to Heiji Market to purchase a small spirit gathering array. Wang had learned through inquiries that one contribution within the system had the same purchasing power as a low-grade spirit stone, so a small 5-element spirit gathering array in the outside world cost approximately 200 low-grade spirit stones. Over 600 spirit stones were enough to purchase 3, and there were 3 of them. Once the spiritual spring was cleaned, it would be enough to power 3 small 5-element spirit gathering arrays for daily cultivation. After all, this spiritual spring could supply hundreds of people. However, the spiritual spring water couldn't be consumed directly for cultivation. It needed to be absorbed through formations, used to refine elixirs, refine iron for treasures, and consume elixir-inducing ingredients. After Wang Lin left, Wang Zimin and Wang arrived at the spiritual spring. The water was a bright red, with many charred debris. Wang Zimin fished them out one by one with tears in his eyes, then diverted the water back up and flowed down the mountain road until it dried up an entire pond. He then sealed it again and waited for spring water to irrigate it. Chapter 4 Everything starts from the beginning. What should we do next? Wang Lin asked from inside the house. Just practice daily, I'll take care of the rest, Wang replied. Clan leader, daily practice would be fine under normal circumstances, but now we should earn some spirit stones to buy some basic supplies so we can recruit new disciples and expand the clan, Wang Zimin suggested. Do you have any suggestions? Wang asked. I think we should take some of our elixirs and sell them at the market to exchange for spirit stones, and then buy some other things, Wang Zimin said. These elixirs are basic. If we run out, how will we recruit disciples to the mountains to practice? Wang said. How about doing odd jobs in the Fangshan herb garden, where the 7 major sects are located, and earn some spirit stones? Wang Lin suggested quietly. Qingentropy Mountain is now the site of the 7 major sects. We are a clan after all. How can we become slaves? Wang Zimin shouted angrily, but was stopped by Wang. For the sake of the family's development, doing odd jobs isn't a bad idea, but how many spirit stones can I earn, and how much time will it take? Wang asked Wang Lin. Both of them fell silent. Wang acted less like a 13 or 14-year-old and more like an adult, experienced in the world. This reassured both Wang Zimin and Wang Lin. Clan leader, how about I venture into the beast hunting mountains? I might find some rare treasures. Even hunting a low-level demon beast would earn me a good amount of spirit stones, Wang Zimin suggested tentatively. Wang shook his head. The beast hunting mountains are fraught with danger. You're only at the 5th level of key training. One misstep could cost you your life. The family is struggling right now. What would we do if something happened to you? Unable to convince Wang, the 2 men obeyed his orders and returned to their own residences to cultivate. After a sleepless night and a day of cultivation, Wang received his contribution for the day. Clan location, Qingentropy Mountain, under reconstruction, clan leader, Wang. Clan size, level 1, of level 4. Clan rank, low ranking. Family members, 3. Family contribution, 45. Family reputation, 16, 98. The original contribution of only 30 points suddenly increased to 45 points. After a day and a night of practice, Wang gained 5 points of contribution from each person. The family scale became flashing, and Wang quickly clicked it. The family scale was able to reach level 1, probably because they repaired the spiritual spring, built 3 more residences, and also because of the 3 small 5-element spirit gathering arrays. Wang clicked on the second level interface of the family scale. There was an achievement inside. Family scale level 1, all family members' practice speed increased by 1. Family members' practice speed increased by 1. This made Wang a little confused. How much practice speed does this increase by 1 increase? However, it can increase the practice speed of all family members. This is simply a magical skill. When there are more family members in the future, the bonus it can provide will be even more powerful. Moreover, This skill is passive and will remain effective as long as the family does not return to level 0. Below the achievement is the statement. Family points. 395, 500, 1 small spiritual spring plus 53 houses plus 10 3 small 5-element spirit gathering arrays plus 303 miniature flower gardens plus 1 forest plus 1. The first 395 is the points for the family buildings, and the last 500 should be the points required to reach level 2. It seems that in order to obtain passive skills, the family size must also be increased. Wang made up his mind. However, he still had to verify the effectiveness of the increase in cultivation speed by 1. So the next day, Wang also asked the two to do nothing but practice hard. Although they were very depressed, they did as he was told. Wang also practiced, but his realm was too low, only the second level of key training, so the feeling was obviously not obvious, but he could feel that the practice was much smoother than before. On the third day, Wang had gained a total of 18 contribution points, which made Wang somewhat happy. Each person contributed 6 points. It was 1 point more than before, but I'm not sure if the training speed is a fixed increase of 1, or if it's increased by 1/5. If it's increased by 1/5, that would be awesome. Last night's training felt much smoother than before. Could it be that I've entered my optimal training state? Wang Lin said to Wang Zimin, somewhat puzzled. Me too. Could it be that the spiritual energy in this mountain has increased? Wang walked out, having already broken through to the third level of key training. He was originally at the second level, but yesterday's training had seen him break through. This was normal, as Wang had been at the second level for quite some time, so a breakthrough was only natural. Wang Zimin quickly fetched a bottle of heart-strengthening pills and handed them to Wang, along with 2 basic elixirs. These low-level heart-strengthening pills can stabilize one's mind and, therefore, their realm, after a breakthrough. Wang accepted them and took them. Although he inherited the memories of his predecessor regarding these matters of training, he still didn't know as much as Wang Zimin did, which made him somewhat worried. Cultivation requires a master. Otherwise, someone like me, who has just achieved a breakthrough, wouldn't know how to stabilize their realm, hindering their cultivation. Therefore, for the family to thrive, the presence of high-level cultivators is essential. However, with only 3 of them left, they will have to cultivate independently, following the clan's texts and the manuals of cultivation experience passed down by their ancestors. However, this isn't urgent, nor is it easy. The world of immortal cultivation is not small, and cultivation is fundamental. This can only be considered later. Currently, expanding the family is crucial. A larger family will allow them to receive system rewards and recruit disciples to the mountain. Daily contributions will also increase, ensuring a steady supply of resources. A few days later, Wang converted all his contributions into spirit stones. Together with the remaining contributions, he had over 300 low-grade spirit stones. He sent Wang Lin to the Hiji market to purchase some fasting pills, a peachwood sword, a Taoist robe, and simple talismans. He kept the purchases largely in keeping with the family's original appearance, reassuring the mortal disciples living below the mountain that their family remains intact. This reassured them. As for what to do after reaching the mountain, Wang would naturally explain the situation truthfully, which would also motivate the disciples to cultivate diligently. As for the houses, several very simple wooden houses were built at the top of the mountain for the new disciples. The 3 of them were all cultivators. Although they were not skilled in construction, 4 walls and a roof were not difficult to build with their strength. However, it would not look very good. The next step was to go down the mountain to recruit the Wang family disciples to cultivate in the mountains. This was the most basic thing, both for the future development of the family and for the daily contributions to Wang's system. Chapter 5, Qing and County Government Recruitment. After a few more days of busying around the mountain gate, most areas were cleaned up, almost free of bloodstains. The rubble had been swept away and piled in a forested area on the mountainside. Wang opened the interface again, revealing that his clan had reached level 2. Clan level 1, increases all clan members' cultivation speed by 1. Clan level 2, increases the spiritual energy density of all clan locations by 1. Clan points. 518, 1,500, 1 small spiritual spring plus 53 houses plus 10 2 courtyards plus 33 small 5-element spirit gathering arrays plus 303 miniature flower gardens plus 1 forest plus 1. Behind them was a large pile of small buildings. The points weren't many, But the sum of 1, 2, or 3 points wasn't small, so Wang didn't bother to examine them closely. This included the original structures on the mountain, all of which the three had cleared over the past few days. They had also built 2 courtyards, constructed with brute force. They were nothing more than square boxes with wooden walls. However, the total points had reached 518, thanks to the efforts of these three. Reaching the next level required 1,500 points, which seemed to require considerable time. This achievement wasn't about increasing cultivation speed, but rather increasing the spiritual energy concentration at the family's location. This was obviously more noticeable, unlike the vague effect of cultivation speed, as spiritual energy could be clearly felt. While the spiritual energy concentration of 1 point might not appear to have any noticeable effect from the outside, a closer look revealed a difference, such as the spiritual spring, which was now much richer in spiritual energy. With everything ready, Wang Da and Wang Zimin descended the mountain to pick up the disciples who hadn't gone up this year, leaving Wang Lin alone on the mountain to await the arrival of the new disciples. In mid-air, Wang Zimin looked back from time to time. Why does it feel like the spiritual energy in Conjentropy Mountain has become much richer? Maybe it's just your imagination, Wang Da evaded, and the two flew away from the mountain. The village below remained peaceful, with farmers working in the fields, a harmonious scene. There were dozens of villages surrounding this area, most of them owned by descendants of the Wang family, though there were also some with other surnames, all relying on the Wang family for their survival. Surrounded by mountains and forests, the area was mostly open space. While there were many nearby mountains, none of them teemed with spiritual energy. A few dozen miles away, a small county town, Conjentropy County, governed dozens of nearby villages. Although it was also under the jurisdiction of the provincial capital, the area had long been monopolized by the Wang family. From the county magistrate to all officials, they were all descendants of the Wang family. Wang Zimin had cast a talisman yesterday, notifying the county government of his arrival today, and the county government had naturally made preparations. Magistrate Wang too, nearly 40 years old, was waiting outside early with a group of yamen runners. Wang Zimin arrived, bowed, and called out, "Uncle Tu." Wang Da naturally didn't address him, but simply bowed slightly, for he was, after all, the current head of the Wang family. While the others were unaware of the events at Conjentropy Mountain, Wang too was aware. He was, after all, the head of a county. Though not a cultivator, he had naturally heard the county talk about such a significant event as the battle between Shangzong Valley and the Five Spirit sect, and so he knew about it. He had already discussed this with Wang Zimin beforehand, and now, of course, he had to keep it a secret, otherwise Conjentropy County would be in turmoil. After a feast of mortal food, they left the government office in the afternoon and arrived at an open-air venue in the county. Every year, the Wang family descended from the mountain to recruit talented disciples. Children from each village, 4 years old or older, could be tested. Conjentropy Mountain sent cultivators down to conduct these tests annually. Because the Conjentropy Wang family had so many mortal disciples, the testing period was lengthy. While children could be tested from 4 years old onward, the optimal age for cultivation was generally between 6 and 8. Therefore, starting at 4 years old, the tests were conducted once a year, for a total of 3 times, to prevent mistakes and provide peace of mind for these mortal disciples. However, very few of these mortal disciples possessed talent. Spiritual roots are something passed down from generation to generation. While the chances of spiritual roots being present in the descendants of cultivators were higher, for mortals, the chances were lower. It wasn't impossible, it was just a matter of proportion. While immortals and mortals share the same ancestry, they were connected by blood. Therefore, the stability of a cultivation family was generally stronger than that of a sect this time. They hadn't taken any tests. This year's tests had already been completed, and the disciples had all entered cultivation. Unfortunately, this disaster struck. These children, only 6 or 7 years old, some before they had even formally entered the cultivation realm, had already tasted the perils of cultivation and lost their lives. Fortunately, several children had been delayed by various circumstances and were preparing to ascend the mountain later, leaving behind a seed of hope. Wang Da took a look at the 7 people in total. 5 of them had turned 6 this year and had tested positive for talent. The other 2 had previously been delayed for a year and hadn't ascended the mountain. Talent, or spiritual roots, was the fundamental difference between mortals and immortal cultivators. Everyone possesses 5 spiritual roots: gold, wood, water, fire, and earth. Each element has varying strengths, categorized as common, mixed, inferior, middling, superior, supreme, and immortal. The higher the strength, the greater the talent. Each element has varying strengths. Ordinary people possess all 5 elements of common, making cultivation impossible. As long as one element is of mixed or higher quality, cultivation is possible. However, due to the interdependent nature of the 5 elements, a wide variety of spiritual root combinations exist. For example, if water and fire elements are equally strong, while the other 3 elements are weak, cultivation will be extremely challenging and prone to obsession. However, if wood and water elements are mutually beneficial, cultivation progress will be significantly accelerated. Even with only low-quality wood elements, supplemented by mixed-quality water elements, cultivation speed can rival that of a single medium-quality root. However, possessing 3 or more elements is even more complex and extremely rare. Wang possesses a single medium-quality water element. While merely a medium-quality root, this is already a significant achievement for the Wang family. Ultimately, however, spiritual roots are merely the foundation. Cultivation depends entirely on individual understanding, comprehension, strength, and luck, all essential. Some may possess limited talent but exceptional luck, encountering the legacy of a powerful being and suddenly changing their fate, ultimately ascending to heaven, leaving behind a lasting legacy or establishing a dominant family or sect. However, these are rare occurrences, so the quality of one's spiritual roots can also represent a cultivator's starting point. Of course, each person's personality and character differ, so even those with the same spiritual roots may not necessarily achieve the same level of success. Some individuals who diligently cultivate, practicing techniques and delving deeply into the path of cultivation are destined for remarkable future success. Others, possessing powerful spiritual roots but lacking a commitment to cultivation, will ultimately fall into decline. Please add this post to your collection, recommend it, and invest in it. Chapter 6, Top Grade Fire Spiritual Root Genius. Wang carefully examined the 7 individuals, their talent test results in hand. 3 possessed inferior spiritual roots, 2 fire type, and 1 gold type. Their aptitude wasn't particularly impressive, the kind of useless. Even if they cultivated, they likely wouldn't achieve high levels of cultivation. However, Wang was considering this, as his family was currently short of personnel. Even if he couldn't contribute, family matters still needed someone to handle them, and his own system clearly had the advantage of having more people. 1 possessed inferior spiritual roots, both gold and wood type. This meant he was essentially doomed to failure. These opposing spiritual roots, with the Wang family's current resources, were unable to help him overcome his wood-type spiritual root. Cultivating only the gold type would inevitably lead to slower progress, even worse than a single inferior spiritual root. Cultivating the wood type would be even more so, as it was suppressed by the gold type spiritual root, making cultivation in the wood type even more impossible. Another one had low-grade fire and mixed-grade water spiritual roots, which presented a dilemma. Low-grade spiritual roots were difficult to find for the Wang family, and there was also a conflicting spiritual root, making it difficult to control. Fortunately, the difference in strength meant Wang decided to accept him. The other 2, a low-grade earth and a low-grade water spiritual root, were 7 years old, a boy and a girl. The family had tested them last year, but they were delayed by something and didn't go into the mountains. They were now promising prospects. Wang also accepted the 3 single-element, mixed-grade spiritual roots, bringing the total to 6. With the family currently short of members, Wang had no other choice but to round up the numbers, accumulate contributions, and expand the family. Seeing the other 6 chosen by Wang and Wang Zimin preparing to return, the remaining child was stunned. After all, he was still young. If only a few were chosen, he wouldn't have felt emotional, but now that he was the only one left out, he burst into tears. It wasn't a wailing outburst, but rather a quiet sob. Wang, after all, was a cultivator with remarkable perception, so he naturally noticed. But he ignored it. If he had taken him up the mountain out of sympathy, he might have lost control of his single spiritual root and become possessed by demons. He would have lived a few more decades in the mortal world. But the child was also stubborn. He sensed that Wang Zimin was taking Wang as his leader, and knew that everything was Wang's decision. He stepped forward. "Big brother, why don't you take me?" His eyes were red, yet he didn't shed a tear, which was truly pitiful. Wang remained silent, appearing rather cold, and the child's courage bolstered. They can take even those with single-line, low-grade spiritual roots. I have dual-line, low-grade spiritual roots, so why not me? It was a scorching summer day, and sweat dripped down his forehead, a sweat evident from his nervousness. The hand holding Wang's sleeve was still smeared with gray dust. Wang half knelt, wiped the dust from him, and then wiped the sweat from his forehead, a smile on his face. The saying about spiritual roots doesn't mean the more, the better. There's a certain logic to the interplay of growth and destructive forces. If you truly cultivate, I'm afraid you'll have a much harder time than them. I'm not afraid. I just know that if I cultivate, those older kids in the village won't dare bully me anymore. The child tugged tightly at Wang's sleeve, fearing he'd take flight on a sword and soar into the heavens. Wang didn't respond, hesitating. At that moment, a voice rang out from behind. Okay, the road ahead is difficult. The hardships you'll endure will be extraordinary. Can you persevere? Wang Zimin chuckled behind him and agreed without waiting for Wang's approval. Wang's silence was a tacit agreement. Family matters were always closer than those of a sect, everyone shared the same blood. I'll definitely persevere. Only I can cultivate. The child wiped the sweat from his brow, his nervous heart finally settling. What's your name? Wang asked, his brows relaxed. My name is Wang Xiaozhen. I have 2 older sisters, both single. Wang Xiaozhen began to speak. This caused everyone to laugh. But just then, the system in Wang's mind chimed in. He hurriedly checked. It turned out the family had surpassed 10 members, unlocking the second-level interface for family members. He clicked on it, revealing information on all 10 family members. Wang De, the clan leader, key training level 3. Wang Zimin, key training level 5. Wang Lin, key training level 4. This second-level interface contained only a few people's information, but nothing else to manipulate. Wang De fumbled around for a while, but found nothing else to do. Congratulations to the host for expanding the family to 10 members. Gift a genius with a top-grade fire spiritual root X1. Wang De was instantly astonished by the thought of a genius with a top-grade fire spiritual root. From what he could remember, his entire family had only produced one child with a superior spiritual root in hundreds of years, and that child had gone on to achieve great things, become famous in Yizhao, and leave behind a legacy that would endure for generations. Now, just because the family had surpassed 10 members, a genius with a top-grade fire spiritual root was gifted. This truly delighted Wang De. At that moment, a little girl dressed in a maid's attire hurriedly squeezed through the crowd. She glanced briefly at Wang De and Wang Zimin, then hurried over to a slender man standing next to Wang Tu. Master, your wife has given birth. A boy or a girl? The thin man was suddenly at a loss, gesticulating with joy, losing all his previous politeness. It's a boy, the little maid said. A boy is good, a boy is good. The thin man hurriedly approached Wang Tu and bowed. Your Excellency, County Magistrate, my wife has given birth. I must go back to see her. Today was supposed to be a big event in Kongentropy County, but... Wang Tu waved his hand. Masterin, there's a family celebration. You should go back first. We'll handle things here. Wang bowed and turned to Wang De. Master Immortal, I'm truly sorry. I have a family emergency and can't accompany you today. Wang Zimin was about to nod, but Wang De waved his hand. Masterin, are you also from our Wang family? Wang nodded. My family is originally a descendant of the immortal master Wang Longxing, but our ancestor married mortal women. Since our lineage came to Kongentropy County, we've had few spiritual roots. We've since moved to Kongentropy County, fallen on hard times, and our family's generational names have been lost. I see, Wang De feigned maturity. Yesterday, I happened to see Senior Wang Longxing in a dream. He told me that our family is struggling, and he prayed to the immortals in the underworld to grant us a son, a unicorn, to lead our Wang family's prosperity. Your family is celebrating today, could it be the unicorn you spoke of? Wang Zimin was stunned. Putting aside the existence of the underworld, even if it did, how would they know about it? And praying to the immortals for a unicorn child was sheer nonsense. How could such a thing even exist? Wang Zimin whispered to Wang De, Senior Wang Xinglong wasn't at a very high level when he passed away, and he hadn't even cultivated his primordial spirit power. How could he have appeared in your dream? Wang De smiled. No need to ask any more questions. Just follow my instructions. Wang was puzzled. As the Conjentropy County advisor, he naturally knew something about cultivation. However, he lacked spiritual roots and was not destined to practice. While he understood some basics, he knew nothing about the underworld or dreams. Although he didn't believe it, he was the Wang family's celestial master after all, so he couldn't refuse their advice. So Wang had the 7 people settled in the county government office and stayed there. He then took Wang Zimin, Wang Tu, and Wang In with him to his home. Chapter 7, The Master's Family Gives Birth to a Child. As a county clerk, Wang In was naturally not poor. He lived in a 2-story house with a gatekeeper. Maids and women were milling about inside. Originally, Wang In's house was not crowded with so many people, but today his wife had given birth, so naturally there was some hustle and bustle, and uncles and aunts from the other 2 rooms came to help. When the group arrived, the child had already been brought out, but there was still some work to do, so the 3 of them were waiting in the hall. Wang In went to the backyard, and Wang Tu chatted with Wang Zimin for a while. Now, Wang Tu was the only one in the outside world who knew about the Wang family's annihilation, so all they talked about was the future development of the Wang family. However, Wang Zimin was a little puzzled about Wang Da's visit to Wang In's house. The new clan leader, Wang Da, was mature beyond his years and had the airs of an old clan leader, but for some reason today, he seemed too playful. Wang In went to the backyard and asked his wife about her well-being, but she only complained. The birth is coming today, and you're not at home, leaving me to suffer this alone. I didn't expect the birth to happen today, but it's only once a year when the Wang family's immortal master descends the mountain, and I have to go. Just now, the immortal master said our son is the unicorn child sent down by our ancestor, Wang Longxing, through the prayers of the gods, Wang In said. Really? Although his wife was still feeling unwell, hearing this, she somewhat forgot her grief. Then quickly take your son to the immortal master for a look. Wang In responded, took his son from the old woman's hands, and walked to the front yard. The old woman followed, accompanied by a maid. The 3 people in the hall saw Wang and enter with a child in his arms and quickly stood up. At first, they looked at him, but they couldn't make any sense. Wang too saw that the child was no different from any other child. Wang Zimin had a feeling. While spiritual roots needed to be tested, as a cultivator, he could roughly gauge whether a child had spiritual roots. He was somewhat shocked. This child definitely had spiritual roots, but he didn't know their aptitude. Could it be that what the clan leader had said was true? As soon as Wang Da saw the child, the system beeped, and Wang Da was naturally delighted. Brother Zimin, take out the test stone and test this child. The test stone is best used to test spiritual roots after the age of 4, but even for newborns, we can give a rough estimate. There may be changes over time, so it's usually only at the age of 5 or 6 that a definitive diagnosis can be made, Wang Zimin said, pulling out a small test stone. A rough estimate is fine. Since it was Senior Wang Longxing who sent this message in a dream, it must be true, Wang Da said. Wang An followed Wang Zimin's instructions and placed his son's hand on the small test stone. Suddenly, the entire hall was illuminated by a 7-colored light, blinding everyone. Then the light faded, and a scorching heat filled the entire hall. On the test stone, the character Fire was prominently inscribed, and beneath it, the character Extreme. As a cultivator, Wang Zimin naturally reacted quickly. He had been to Conjentropy County several times and had seen countless children undergo tests within his family, but none quite like today's situation. He had assumed this child's aptitude was impeccable. But he had never imagined he possessed a supreme-grade fire spiritual root. Wang too was also stunned. He had been deeply worried for some time. If the family had suffered such a catastrophe and their path to cultivation had been cut off, life would have been difficult for them, the ordinary people. Unexpectedly, the heavens would spare the Wang family and send down a killing child to lead them to prosperity. Wang naturally understood the meaning of the words on the test stone. His ancestor, Grandmaster Wang Longxing, possessed only a high-grade spiritual root, yet he had achieved millennia of fame and renown. Now, his son possessed a supreme-grade spiritual root. This meant his son was even more powerful than Grandmaster Wang Longxing. Only Wang Da looked confident. He wasn't surprised, but simply smiled as he addressed Wang An. Has the child been named yet? I already have 2 sons. I thought this one would be a girl, so I gave it a girl's name, but it's unexpectedly a boy. Since it was Patriarch Wang Longxing who appeared in my dream, why don't you give him a name? Wang bowed and said respectfully. Since it was Patriarch Wang Longxing who appeared in my dream, and he has a single spiritual root of the fire element, why not name him Xinghu? This also signifies that he will lead our family to prosperity in the future. What do you think? Wang Da said. Okay, Wang Xinghu, Xinghu. Wang thanked him and hugged his son tighter. Wang Zimin, standing nearby, reacted and pulled Wang Da and Wang Tu together to repeat the conversation. Since this child possesses such talent, why don't we take him up the mountain and carefully nurture him? If he remains in this mortal world, I'm afraid God will be jealous of his talent and there's no guarantee he won't suffer any harm. That's wrong. A child favored by heaven certainly needs careful nurturing, but he also needs to endure hardships before he can become a talent. Staying in the mortal world to hone his skills isn't a bad idea, Wang Tu interjected. His meaning was clear, his family had caused this great disaster. Although the situation in the eastern Yizhao cultivation world had temporarily stabilized, it was bound to cause trouble. Those of them who remained in the mortal world were spared. A child with such talent must be left with a seed of hope. County Magistrate 2 is right. We are the only 3 men in the mountain now, and our 7 disciples are all children. How can we carefully care for him and raise him to adulthood? A genius needs to grow, and soaring to great heights is a matter of the future. Staying in Kangentropy County now can, on the one hand, protect him, and on the other, temper his character. Wang Da's words made Wang Zimin, a 29-year-old young man, feel a little inferior. After Wang Da finished speaking, he dismissed the maidservants and servants behind Wang. He then solemnly declared, since this child possesses such natural talent, he will undoubtedly achieve extraordinary things in the future. However, talent is easy to find, but nurturing it is difficult. If he develops arrogance, or becomes timid and lazy, these are serious problems in cultivation. He will struggle to achieve success and may even become a disaster for others. Never again tell him about today's test. Simply teach him the ways of the world, prioritizing his character. Don't raise a lazy and gluttonous child. When he turns 6, I will come and take him to the mountains, where I will personally train him in cultivation. After these words, Wang and Wang Tu both bowed in agreement. Although Wang Da appeared to be only 13 or 14, his maturity and thoughtfulness were beyond his years. They agreed, and the group returned to the county government office. Wang Da and Wang Zimin, leading the 7 newly initiated children, flew towards Kangentropy Mountain. Wang Da's strength was at the 3rd level of key training, and his sword-controlling skills were only enough to carry 1 child. It would be no problem for Wang Zimin to carry 3 children, but there were still 3 left, so Wang Da was generous and used the disposable flying talisman to take them to the mountain gate in a grand manner. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 8: The 7 Eastern Alliance. Back at the mountain gate, Wang Da had to consider the future. Although he had a genius with a supreme fire-attributed spiritual root, it hadn't yet fully developed. Perhaps at his age, it would be useful. The current situation was volatile, and the power in eastern Yizhao hadn't stabilized. Weak families generally sought support from a sect Wang Da didn't want to. With his family system, developing his family was only a matter of time. If a sect truly wanted to protect them, Wang Da would agree, given their current weakness. But Wang Da would never proactively seek support. Wang Zimin was familiar with the family's previous methods of educating children. Although Wang Ling had previously not taught within the family, he had also cultivated along the way. Therefore, the 7 disciples were placed under the guidance of the 2 of them, who trained daily. Every 7 days, the 7 would descend the mountain to the village nearest Kangentropy Mountain, where there was a private school, and all 7 would learn to read and write. While cultivation is paramount, literacy and the acquisition of wisdom and thought are also essential. Without the ability to read, even if a manual is placed before them, they won't understand its meaning, so how can they cultivate? The private school is staffed by the Wang family's outstanding scholars, who meticulously teach them to understand principles and matters of the world. This is also an important step, but it's not just about studying every day. Cultivation is paramount. The family doesn't require them to be knowledgeable about history and the present, or to pass imperial examinations, That wouldn't be of much use, they simply learn wisdom and understand worldly matters. Wang had recently accompanied them down the mountain to take a look. The private school had 2 teachers, both members of the Wang family. However, the family had suffered a disaster a few days ago, preventing them from ascending the mountain. Curious, they learned that none of the original disciples had come down to study, so they returned to the county government office to report to Wang too. Wang too, naturally aware of the great war in the world of immortal cultivation, naturally didn't elaborate. Since the 7 disciples had ascended the mountain, he allowed the 2 to return and continue teaching. Wang also listened. While it was pedantic, that was the nature of the times, and there was no need to impart his modern ideas to them. It would be a bad idea to have them develop some bizarre ideas. After all, in the world of immortal cultivation, realm was crucial, and Wang's responsibility was to encourage their diligent cultivation. However, Wang Zimin had a different perspective. The 2 disciples with low-grade spiritual roots needed careful nurturing, but the other 5, while one also had low-grade spiritual roots, were dual spiritual roots, and a restrained one at that. They were destined to achieve little and would likely only be responsible for routine tasks within the family. Wang Zimin felt the same way. If it weren't for the family's calamity, he would have only reached the 5th level of key training, destined for no greater achievement. He would have married a woman from another family, performed routine tasks for the family, cultivated spiritual herbs and medicines, and raised children, placing his hopes on the next generation. But now, burdened with a heavy responsibility, all his previous fantasies vanished. Perhaps he was destined to be a significant figure in the family history, not for his cultivation, but for leading the family back to its former glory. Wang collected daily contributions from the system, which varied from day to day. Cultivation clearly earned more contributions than work, but work also differed. For example, a few days ago, Wang and Wang Zimin went to recruit 7 disciples to the mountain. Wang was given 22 contributions, 11 each, while Wang Lin, who stayed at the clan to cultivate for a day, only earned 6. It seemed he needed to carefully study these daily contributions, striving to increase them and accelerate the clan's development. However, this would take time and Wang would need to personally analyze them. For now, cultivation seemed the easiest and offered the highest contributions. After all, recruiting disciples to the mountain wasn't something that happened every day. The situation in eastern Yizhao was still uncertain. Although Shangzong Valley had been destroyed, other small clans were constantly fighting, and outside forces were interfering. Without peace, the Wang family would be hard-pressed to remain aloof. Wang left the mountain gate. As clan leader, he didn't have to personally lead the 7 children in cultivation, but he still had to do his best to fulfill the responsibilities of a clan leader. Flying west for about 100 miles, he arrived at another clan, the Liu clan. The Liu family was not a weak force, originally affiliated with the 5 Spirits Valley, just like the Wang family. Wang Zimin had previously investigated this. During the Shangzong Valley's purge of clan power, the Liu family fought to the death, surviving a significant number of descendants. Although only a few hundred members remain today, they are still far more powerful than the Wang family. As neighbors and members of the same 5 Spirits sect, the Wang family had long been on good terms with them. Furthermore, Wang's biological mother was a member of the Liu family, which was why Wang dared to inquire about the situation. There were originally 3 other families on good terms with the Wang family, but the Liu family was closer, which is why Wang came to them to inquire. It was only after joining the Liu family that he learned that his mother's father and brother had also died in the battle, leaving only one surviving relative, Wang's uncle, a generation apart. This man, Wang's biological mother's cousin, was deeply moved upon learning of Wang's arrival, sighing that his cousin still had descendants, while his 2 sons had died in the battle. After a brief conversation, filled with routine matters, the Liu family's head, upon learning of the Wang family's arrival, summoned Wang. The head of the Liu family was also newly appointed, named Liu Zixing, 21 or 22 years old, and only at the 7th level of key training. Wang introduced himself, and Liu Zixing didn't look down on him because of his youth. Instead, he expressed deep emotion, feeling that he, too, had been entrusted with a mission in a time of crisis and shared the same fate. Wang had come to explore the outside world, so naturally, he and Liu Zixing engaged in a lengthy conversation. He learned that the Xiannian sect in the south was now powerful, nearly encroaching on most of the eastern territory. Many families and smaller sects, fearing its power, had become attached to it, completely losing the demeanor of being native to the east. Furthermore, to the north of their eastern region, a seven-sect alliance had formed, two sects formed by the remnants of the Wuling sect, one formed by the remnants of the Shangzong Valley, and four originally indigenous sects. Among the seven sects, the Mulin sect boasts a grand elder who has recently reached the Jiandin realm. This is why the Seven Sects Alliance dared to challenge the Xian'an sect and divide the eastern Yizhao territory equally. However, while the Seven Sects Alliance is an alliance, it harbors constant animosity and conflict. If it weren't for the Mulin sect's Grand Elder's deterrent, another major war would have occurred. Wang then inquired about the various small clans, and Liu Zixing explained. The Seven Sects Alliance now has established rules, allowing small clans and sects to develop independently. They don't need to form factions, they simply need to join the Seven Sects Alliance. Join the Seven Sects Alliance? Wang was clearly puzzled by the idea. Yes, the Seven Sects Alliance aims to create the only alliance in the East. There will be no vassalage between the various clans and clans. We will all develop peacefully, united in opposing outside forces, and resource issues will be resolved through peaceful negotiation, Liu Zixing explained. This is a positive development. Under the current system, clans would have to become vassals of a major sect, their outstanding disciples would have to contribute, and resources would have to be paid annually. This would have made it difficult for clans to develop, and it would have been a form of exploitation. With that, Wang's worries were gone, and he could focus on developing his clan. I only received the news a few days ago, but the Seven Sects Alliance is still deliberating internally. It's already unstable, and hasn't spread to other clans, especially small clans like us. I believe representatives from the Seven Sects Alliance will be here soon. The specific details of joining will depend on how they finalize the agreement, Liu Zixing said. After discussing these matters, the two of them discussed future developments. Chapter 9, The Theory of Spiritual Roots and Cultivation. Now that the vassal relationship was over, each small family could develop its own power. The Liu and Wang families had always been close, but now that both had suffered varying degrees of hardship, it was time for them to support each other. Wang and Liu Zixing discussed some plans for this matter. However, Wang did not discuss specific matters. Currently, the Wang family was only 1 out of 100, but with his system, he could surely develop into a major force in the East, even in Yizhao, and even the entire country. However, since they were weak at the moment, they needed an ally. However, when it came to specific matters, the Liu family could not provide much help to the Wang family. They were afraid that after a while, when the Wang family developed, the Liu family would demand a reward from the Wang family. Having achieved his goal, Wang stood up to say goodbye and prepare to return. However, before he could even leave the Liu family's mountain gate, and just as he was leaving Liu Zixing's residence, he was stopped by his uncle, who was a generation apart from him. Naturally, he was pulled over again and given a bowl of spiritual tea. My cousin used to be close to me. These are some of her father and brother's belongings, including some medicinal pills and spirit stones. With only a few members left in your Wang family, it's likely difficult to thrive. These supplies are scarce, so take them. Wang's heart was touched. Blood is thicker than water, and even if they were relatives from different generations, such a gesture moved him. However, Wang refused to accept them. He simply thanked them and forced his way on. Halfway through, Wang heard a system notification, which he quickly clicked on. Clan location, Kinjetropy Mountain. Clan head, Wangda. Clan size, level 2, level 4. Clan rank, low ranking. Clan members, 10. Clan contribution, 28. Family reputation, 21, 98. The reconstruction of the family location has disappeared, and the reputation has increased by 5 points. It seems that the communication and friendship between him and the Liu family have restored his reputation, but there is no reward. Wang guessed that he would have to wait until there are more than 100 people to unlock the second-level interface. However, the family originally had 400 to 500 people, and only 98 points of reputation. It should not be easy to exceed 100. Now that it has just started, Wang needs to unlock each one and get rewards to better develop the family. However, after analyzing these options one by one, it is difficult to increase the family scale after reaching the second level. The house is simple and the natural building cannot be changed on a large scale. The cultivation supplies require spirit stones. Contribution fluctuates daily, but as the number of people increases, a lot can be earned every day. Reputation is temporarily unavailable. At this time, too high a reputation is likely to cause unnecessary trouble. The only things left are the family level, family location, and family patriarch. Wang suspected that the patriarch would need to advance himself before any progress could be made. His own talent wasn't particularly high, only mid-level, though this was a rare talent in the family's past century. However, for Wang, possessing a system, mid-level talent was clearly insufficient. As for the family's location, that was even more difficult. Areas rich in spiritual energy were often occupied by cultivators. With the Wang family in such a state, it was a blessing if others didn't cause trouble, so how could they dare to cause trouble? The only remaining issue was family rank, a peculiar one Wang found somewhat puzzling. There was no clear numerical value, only the word low class. Back at the mountain gate, Wang Zimin was surveying the land, preparing to plan a training complex. This complex was a crucial area for the family. With the family now in such decline, individuals practicing on their own would simply set up a small 5-element spirit gathering array in their own rooms. However, for future development, a training complex was essential. Therefore, Wang had already included this in his plans. He wasn't planning on completing it yet, but he needed to have a basic form. As for the items, he could slowly put them together. After all, in the world of immortal cultivation, strength is respected. If a family's children have high cultivation, everything will be within their grasp. Brother Zimin, do you know about the hierarchy among families? Wang asked from the side. There is a hierarchy among families, but it's not clearly defined. Regardless of whether it's a sect or a family, it's included. It's just that within a clan or sect, the hierarchy is based on the level and number of high-level cultivators. A family like ours, with all key condensation cultivators, is considered the lowest tier. Those with one or more foundation establishment cultivators are considered the 9th tier, and so on up from there. However, the outside world doesn't often mention the hierarchy of power. After all, many sects have rich heritage, and some have protective formations that surpass their own strength by several levels. Or perhaps they possess powerful magic weapons or powerful spirit beasts. It's not as simple as it seems, Wang Zimin explained. Wang understood. It seemed that this family's rank wouldn't be able to rise anytime soon. For now, all they could do was accumulate contributions in exchange for spirit stones and some basic resources. Just make some plans. No need to go to great lengths. Don't delay your cultivation, Wang said, and headed down the mountain. Down below, a newly constructed, rather simple courtyard housed 7 new disciples. Today was Wang Lin's turn to teach them the basics of cultivation. Wang Zimin was in charge of teaching them the art of breathing and cultivating qi. However, given their aptitude, simply sensing the presence of the spiritual energy of heaven and earth was a challenge. Reaching the first level of qi training would likely take over a month. Wang, mid-air, saw the classroom below him in the open air, and descended. Wang Lin was currently discussing cultivation techniques. Once you sense the spiritual energy of heaven and earth, you'll enter the first level of qi training. Then you can learn cultivation techniques. Just like your spiritual roots, these techniques are divided into 5 categories: gold, wood, water, fire, and earth. Therefore, the techniques you cultivate must align with the attributes of your spiritual roots, otherwise you won't be able to absorb spiritual energy for cultivation. Wang Lin's mouth spitted, and a few sweats broke out on his portly body. While cultivators no longer shed such tears easily, if one doesn't notice and focuses on other things, they're no different from ordinary people. Wang Deluo stood aside and didn't interrupt. Instead, Wang Xiaozhen, who was standing nearby, stood up and asked, Master Lin, what kind of cultivation techniques should I practice with my dual spiritual roots? You have mixed spiritual roots of both gold and wood. Generally speaking, if you want to cultivate, you can only cultivate the gold spiritual root, not the wood spiritual root. If you cultivate the wood spiritual root, it will be suppressed by the gold spiritual root in your body. Absorbing spiritual energy will harm your body, thus destroying your spiritual root. So, I can only cultivate the gold spiritual root? Wang Xiaozhen asked. Yes, cultivating gold spiritual roots is also very difficult, because both of your spiritual roots are of equal strength. Unlike Wang Tao, although he also has dual spiritual roots, He has low-grade fire spiritual roots and low-grade water spiritual roots. While water spiritual roots can restrain fire spiritual roots, they are at a lower strength. When he was cultivating, his master, Zimin, was able to suppress him. After entering the realm, it's up to him. You, on the other hand, must suppress your wood spiritual roots. Otherwise, if the gold spiritual roots enter your body, they will destroy the wood spiritual roots, causing damage to your body. As for the degree of damage, it will be permanent. Spiritual roots are born and cannot be regenerated. If the damage is severe, you may not be able to cultivate, or even lose your life. Wang Lin explained. Wang Tao was another little boy with dual spiritual roots, but they also had opposing spiritual roots. That day, Wang Da had considered carefully before accepting him. Wang Xiaozhen sat down, clearly feeling a little discouraged. Wang Lin knew that he shouldn't put too much pressure on a child, so he smiled. While spiritual roots are innate, cultivation depends on the individual. As long as you have perseverance, you will surely succeed. Cultivation is about defying fate and changing one's destiny. Spiritual roots are innate, so how can they not be changed? Isn't that right? Wang Xiaozhen looked up at Wang Lin. Although he thought his overweight master's smile was a bit unpleasant, his words gave him immense confidence. Thank you, Master Wang Lin. I will definitely work hard. I have 2 older sisters, both single, and only a few years older than you. Chapter 10 Uninvited Guests. He was saying the same thing again, and Wang Lin quickly stopped him. Little kid, you're talking like an adult. Remember what I'm saying today. Oh, it's just my mother. Before I came, she kept saying that when I became successful, I could buy dowries for my sisters, and when I went to other people's homes, I wouldn't be bullied, Wang Xiaozhen said. Okay, stop talking about your family. After school, go to the yard and practice breathing exercises. Wang Lin had no choice but to disperse the crowd. The children all ran into the yard, and Wang Lin walked over to Wang Da. How are these children's temperaments? Wang Da asked. They're all okay. As mortal Wang family members, they all know that cultivation is not easy. These children have received some guidance at home and are quite diligent. However, there's one breathing exercise that has taken off the fastest. Now they can slowly sense the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. However, he has 2 opposing spiritual roots, so such rapid progress is beyond our expectations, Wang Lin said. That Wang Tao? Wang Da asked. Wang Lin nodded. If anything happens, I'll have my people look after him. I'm afraid he'll be the quickest to enter the realm. As for the others, the 2 with lower grade spiritual roots will be quicker, while the ones with mixed grade spiritual roots will progress more slowly. It'll probably take several months before they can enter. Here are a few dozen lower grade spirit stones. Go to Hiji Market and buy some key nourishing pills. Then go get some basic elixirs from the people and distribute them to these children. Don't be stingy. Wang Da took out the spirit stones he'd earned from his contributions and gave them to Wang Lin. Didn't we use up all the remaining spirit stones yesterday? I heard the clan leader went to the Liu family. Could these be? Wang Lin said. No, I earned them. You can buy them, Wang Da said. Wang Lin responded, then added, the clan has limited resources. We have some leftover elixirs and herbs. Now that we've lost our source, why not leave them to you, a child with top-grade spiritual roots? Why should we? Wang Da interrupted him before he could finish. I have my own way with the spirit stones. That child will need another 5 or 6 years to cultivate. We need rapid development. Hearing Wang Da say this, Wang Lin stopped talking. Wang Da was only at the 3rd level of key training, and Wang Lin couldn't imagine how he could possibly obtain spirit stones. Just as he was about to leave, he saw 2 black spots in the sky, slowly approaching. Wang Lin sighed inwardly, oh no. Those were 2 cultivators. He couldn't tell their level from a distance, so he quickly flew down again. Wang Da had noticed, too, and speculated that with only the 3 of them in the Wang family at the moment, if someone with ill intentions spied on the gates of Conjentropy Mountain, they might not be able to handle it. But then he thought about the 7 Sects Alliance Liu had mentioned. Could it be that the 7 Sects Alliance had sent someone? Take the children back to the house and tell the people to come down. I'll go up first and investigate. If anything happens to me, you'll go to the Liu family for help. I have an agreement with their clan leader, Liu Zixing, to help each other. If the people who come here have low cultivation, I believe they will definitely come to our aid. If you see their cultivation is higher than ours, absolutely do not come up. Just do as I say. The Wang family was weak at the moment, easily overwhelmed by any single individual. They had no choice but to seek help from the Liu family. Even if Liu Zixing refused to help, his great-granduncle would surely bring his men. If the other party's cultivation was too high, Wang De would have to accept defeat and fight for his life. Wang Lin reacted and immediately stepped back. Wang De soared on his sword, soaring into the air. He saw two men slowly approaching. Wang De couldn't tell their cultivation levels, but he saw two men in white, their hair tied up with hairpins, a sword at their feet, and other magical weapons on their bodies. Each held a sword sheath in his hand. Their brows held a profound expression. Judging by their attire and magical weapons, Wang De had a firm idea, their cultivation was clearly quite advanced. Go and call out your clan leader, one of the men in white shouted at Wang De. Wang De saw a hint of disdain and contempt in their tone, and wondered if they were members of the Seven Sects Alliance. He bowed, neither humble nor overbearing. I am the head of the Wang clan, Wang De. What brings you to my Wang family? What's the matter? Third level of key training? It seems the Wang family was completely annihilated by Shangzhuang Valley. I didn't believe it at first, but now it seems there won't be much trouble. With these words, Wang De knew they were looking for trouble. He became wary and activated the system. However, the system clearly didn't respond, and Wang De gave up hope. He could only rely on himself. Since you are the clan leader, let me tell you. With only 1 in 100 of your Wang family left, you still occupy Kinjentropy Mountain. Isn't that a bit inappropriate? The man in white said. Kinjentropy Mountain is the hereditary place of cultivation for my Wang family. How could it be inappropriate? Wang De lowered his hand and said calmly. You do have some dignity, as expected of a family member. However, in this world of immortal cultivation, strength is respected. We are not murderers. It's just that the 5-spirit sect was destroyed, leaving us with nowhere to stay. The new sect wouldn't accept us, so we gathered together and formed a new sect. We simply sought shelter. Here are 5,000 spirit stones as compensation. What do you think? The man in white said. Wang De suspected, judging by the man's words, that there were clearly more than just these two. These two were merely the vanguard. As for the exact number, Wang De had no idea. The 5-spirit sect was vast, with numerous disciples, which was why they knew the location of the Wang family's mountain gate and, naturally, the Wang family's plight. Our family was originally affiliated with the 5 Spirits Valley, a powerful faction. I didn't expect you to take advantage of our misfortune, Wang De said righteously. We have no other choice. We came here to offer courtesy before force, as we do not wish to cause further bloodshed. If you refuse, we have no choice but to resort to force. The man in white bowed, a gesture of apology. I wonder if you have the ability to seize our Wang family's ancestral land, Wang De snorted coldly. When my father was alive, he also befriended cultivators from all sides, including many independent cultivators. My mother is a member of the Liu family. Today, I met with Liu Zixing at the Liu family's mountain gate to discuss future matters. Although I cannot defeat you, I will take your spirit stones. I will return them when you bring relatives and friends. However, if the mountain gate suffers any damage or casualties, do not blame us for being rude. If you wish, throw the spirit stones here, I will take them, and then take my people and leave. The two were surprised by this, unsure whether to throw away their storage bags. Wang De saw that he had frightened them, and he began to suspect that these remnants would not be accepted into the new sect, and their realm would not be very high. Although the Liu family also caused a great disaster, many of their members survived. Although none of them had high cultivation, they were still a powerful force, and they were certainly afraid of the Liu family. At this time, down the mountain, Wang Lin and Wang Zimin also looked anxious. Brother Zimin, what are the cultivation levels of these two people? Wang Lin asked. One is at the 8th level of key training, and the other is at the 7th level. Both are higher than me. Wang Zimin's face was heavy. What should we do? Wang Lin asked. Although the clan leader is young, he's extremely talented. They have been discussing this for a long time up there. I believe he can find a solution. If anything unexpected happens, I will rush to the Liu family for help, and you take the 7 of them down the mountain, Wang Zimin said. Then you will ignore the clan leader? Wang Lin asked. Even if we go up now, what can we do? It will only increase casualties. If the 2 of us die, then our Wang family will be completely finished, Wang Zimin shouted angrily. Chapter 11. If you don't remove the roots, the grass will grow again in the spring breeze. In mid-air, Wang's palms were sweating. Though he possessed a mature soul, this world revered strength, and he couldn't help but feel a little nervous, though it was only in his heart, his face showing no sign of it. The two men were whispering nearby. Brother, the Liu family's strength is still quite intact. If they're truly provoked, we might be overwhelmed. We might not be able to seize Conjentropy Mountain, one said. What do you know? While the Liu family has retained considerable strength, we still have dozens of people, all of whom have emerged from the dead. They certainly won't fight us. However, I know about the Wang and Liu family's friendship. Even if we can capture Conjentropy Mountain, I'm afraid there will be trouble in the future. Now that the Seven Sects Alliance has been formed, all parties must negotiate peace. If the Liu family interferes, we'll undoubtedly be labeled bandits. We have no family members, so recruiting disciples will be difficult, let alone growth, the other said. Brother, you're thoughtful. What should we do? The previous person asked. That's why I offered 5,000 spirit stones. I bought a reputation. If he takes it, we won't be robbing him. Even if there's peace in the future, they won't be right. If the unrest continues, we won't have anything to worry about, the man said. Senior brother is indeed clever. Wang saw their expressions and knew he hadn't fooled them. He was already thinking of other options. His own life was of paramount importance, family matters were secondary. Even if the system was disabled for a while, he could still make a comeback. Regardless of whether the Liu family would help, there was a child with a top-grade fire spirit route down the mountain. If you were to take him and train him, he wouldn't be afraid of not being able to avenge the occupation of the mountain gate. The two men tossed spirit stones at him. Wang knew they had no intention of killing him, but he remained cautious. However, the storage bag didn't fall into his hands. An invisible spiritual force nearby mobilized it, and it flew away. A man and a woman, both simple and elegant, like the villagers down the mountain, but now, without controlling anything, they stood still in midair. Don't bother targeting the Wang family anymore. Consider these 5,000 spirit stones compensation. Let's go, the man said, accepting the stones. Foundation establishment stage, one of them exclaimed in shock, quickly taking the other with him and flying away. The man handed the storage bag to Wang and, without further ado, prepared to leave. Seeing this, Wang hurriedly called out to them. Seniors, why are you harming me? We're saving you, why are you harming you? The woman next to the man asked instinctively. If you don't remove the grass at its roots, it will grow back again. 5,000 spirit stones is no small sum, especially since they're a group of cultivators in distress. I took their spirit stones today, so wouldn't they harbor a grudge? You two seniors are highly skilled, so you're not afraid. But if you leave now, wouldn't it mean the end of our Wang family? Wang said. Without turning around, the man laughed 3 times. You appear young and your cultivation isn't high, yet your thoughts are so far-sighted and meticulous. You're bound to achieve great things in the future. As the saying goes, a blessing in disguise, the Wang family will likely have nothing to worry about in the future. Thank you, senior, for the compliment. I'm nothing but a mere cultivator at the 3rd level of key training. Wang bowed. If you have no intention of harming me, why don't you stay for a while at my home? Okay, the two of us will stay. I'm just not sure how long you'll need us to stay. It's not easy for us to get here, the man said. 2 months is enough, Wang said. 2 months? The man laughed again. I originally thought you were incredibly intelligent and thoughtful, but I didn't expect you to be so boastful and frivolous. There are dozens of them, all cultivators above the 4th level of key training. Among them are 2 at the 8th level and over 10 at the 7th. How can you be fearless in just 2 months? It looks like the Wang family is doomed. Senior, you said before that our Wang family is safe, but now you're saying it's over. Isn't that even more frivolous? Wang said calmly. He said this because he could tell from the other person's words that they clearly had a connection with the Wang family and were clearly trying to help him. Okay, then I'll stay for 2 months. After that, I'll leave. No matter what happens to the Wang family, I won't be involved. It'll be like wiping out all past grudges. The man said this and descended with a woman beside him. Wang followed. Wang Lin and Wang Zimin had already seen the 2 men below, but their simple attire made it difficult to tell whether they were real or fake. The man wore a linen shirt, his hair untied, loose and falling over his shoulders. He was clean, and wielded a longsword, which exuded a certain aura. However, it lacked a sheath, wrapped in linen, revealing nothing. There was a certain heroic air between his brows, though it didn't quite match his appearance. Those with untidy hair were often rural peasants. The woman wore a gray, coarse cloth shirt, her hair tied up, and a gold hairpin. She looked quite impressive, but she held no magical weapon. She wore a pair of finely crafted embroidered shoes, so finely crafted that they shone with a faint electric current as she walked, surprising Wang Zimin. The hairpin and embroidered shoes were certainly not ordinary items, yet they were so utterly ordinary. Unlike Wang Zimin, Wang Lin, upon seeing the woman, was struck by her extraordinary beauty. While he hadn't seen any truly stunning beauties, he had traveled extensively within his family's affairs, and none of the people he had met matched her beauty. Wang Lin's gaze was riveted, and a fire welled up within him. This woman was unlike any other, her mannerisms not those of a lady from a noble family, but rather those of the elegant ladies of Hejiafang Market. Her every smile and frown was captivating. Wang Zimin greeted her with a greeting, calling her senior, but Wang Lin remained silent. The man, seeing Wang Lin's behavior, grew irritated. A wave of pressure from him jolted Wang Lin back to his senses, and blood splattered from his mouth, evidently an internal injury. My younger brother is young and uninitiated, and I don't know the proper etiquette. I beg for your forgiveness, Wang Zimin observed, reacting quickly. He quickly supported Wang Lin, then, after falling, stood up, bowed, and apologized profusely. Only then did Wang Lin realize the extraordinary strength of these two men. He had actually let out a fury, truly asking for trouble. He quickly stood up, wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth, and knelt down. I beg for your forgiveness, senior. Wang De, whose cultivation was not high, only just came to his senses. He had just witnessed the scene and, knowing that Wang Lin was in the wrong, remained silent. He simply walked over to Wang Lin's side and examined him. Finding only the wound in his abdomen, it hadn't damaged his cultivation or his spiritual roots. He finally breathed a sigh of relief. Chapter 12 We are one family. The man was about to speak when the woman next to him intervened. You can't blame him for this, it's just my nature. The man didn't say much, just snorted. The three of them understood the woman's meaning. She was naturally beautiful, and it wasn't her fault that Wang Lin was being frivolous. Brother Zimin, go and tidy up the new house in the mountains and give it to the two seniors. Seeing that things had come to this, Wang De stopped talking and instructed Wang Zimin. Go get some healing pills. Rest assured, you can recover in peace for the next 2 days. Wang De didn't mean to blame him, but simply stated his intention. The two seniors would be staying at our Wang family, and Wang Lin should stay home and avoid meeting them, fearing any bad feelings. Just as the two men were about to leave, the woman, noticing Wang Lin's injuries, looked apologetic. She pulled out a bottle of pills from her storage ring and tossed it to him. This is a life-saving pill. It'll be helpful for your injury and can even regulate your disordered spiritual energy. Take it. Wang Lin simply took it, not looking up. He thanked him repeatedly and turned to leave. Behind him, he could only hear Wang Zimin's voice fading away. Wang De bowed to the woman. Thank you, senior, for the gift. It's just a small pill. No need to be polite. After all, we're family, the woman said. Wang De speculated about the latter part of her words, but still replied with the first half. This life-saving pill is worth a lot. His injury only requires 3 or 4 pills, yet you gave him a bottle. I should be grateful. The woman chuckled softly. This is our fault. Giving us these pills is compensation. You go ahead and do your work. We'll explore the mountain on our own. If there are any taboos, you can tell us, the man said. This mountain is newly built, there are no taboos. If you two seniors want to go for a walk, go ahead. After Wang De finished speaking, he saw them walking away. The two of them just walked towards the west side of the mountain, walked around a group of ruins, and walked towards the woods. There was the orchard where the family used to live, and it produced many spiritual countries. Now most of them have been destroyed, and only some remnants have been cleaned up by Wang Zimin. I haven't been back for so many years, I didn't expect that everything has changed. The two of them walked forward, passed through the orchard, and came to a cliff, and slowly sat down. Yes, I remember that we first met here. You chased me and walked around half of the orchard, but I finally escaped. The woman leaned on his shoulder, lifted the man's drooping hair, and lay down gently. Speaking of Wang De, after parting with the two of them, He walked towards the top of the mountain, and Wang Zimin just came down. Wang De explained the situation to him and was relieved to learn that the two men held no ill will toward the Wang family. However, upon learning that they were all at the foundation establishment stage, he felt deeply moved. Wang Lin was fortunate. When a foundation establishment cultivator got angry, their level of cultivation was truly like an ant. Fortunately, the two men had a connection to the Wang family, otherwise Wang Lin might have lost his life today. Clan leader, you said these two men have a connection to the Wang family. Do you know what their relationship is? The two men descended the mountain to find the 7 newly promoted disciples. The emergency had forced them to hide inside, and they were unsure of their current situation. Seeing Wang Zimin's question, Wang De spoke up. From what they said, I suspect they're descendants of the Wang family, but I don't know why they've wandered away. Wang family descendants? Clan leader, you don't know. Our family has been weak for the past 100 years. Only the old patriarch is at the foundation establishment stage, and 2 disciples who went to the 5 spirit sect are also at the foundation establishment stage. The only remaining ancestor is at the late foundation establishment stage, but he passed away over 10 years ago due to his demise. If our Wang family had such young foundation establishment disciples, we would have heard of them, Wang Zimin said. Wang De pondered, unable to make a conclusion for a moment. However, based on the woman's words, he could at least conclude that even if these 2 weren't members of the Wang family, they definitely had connections to the family. Furthermore, in this world, with each realm of cultivation, one's lifespan increases. Therefore, the easiest way to judge someone's talent is to look at their appearance. If someone looks young, they have good talent, having reached a high level at a young age. If someone looks old and frail, they have poor talent, having reached a new level near their demise, hence their appearance. Cultivators in the key condensation stage have similar lifespans to ordinary people, though their bodies are much stronger, making them largely immune to mortal illnesses. However, reaching the foundation establishment stage allows them to extend their lifespan by decades. Furthermore, their bodies are even more powerful, so living to 150 is common, though some can reach 180. Just like ordinary people, lifespans aren't fixed, but rather a rough range, just as cultivators in the foundation establishment stage can't possibly live past 200. Of course, there are many heavenly elixirs that can extend lifespan, but these are both possible and unattainable. The best way to increase one's lifespan is to cultivate to a higher level. These 2 individuals appeared to be in their 30s or 40s. With cultivation at the foundation establishment stage, they must have considerable talent, and their actual ages should be between 70 and 100 years old. As for the specifics, Wang De and the others didn't know whether they were in the early, middle, or late stages of the foundation establishment stage, so it was impossible to tell. Such talent was certainly unheard of within the Wang family within the past century. If someone did, they would be a prodigy, and even if Wang Zimin hadn't seen one, he'd have certainly heard of one. Could it be that she was kicked out of the family? She was in the key training stage before, and she wandered outside and cultivated to the foundation building stage? Wang De asked. That's possible. Let me think about whether there is such a person in the family. Wang Zimin said, but he couldn't think of it. So he went to the mountain and looked through the clan chronicles. Maybe she is a woman who married out. It's also possible. You should look carefully. Wang De reminded him and went down the mountain alone. The 7 children were fine in the house. 3 of them were sitting cross-legged, practicing the breathing method, and the other 4 were gathered together playing, making the tables and chairs fly everywhere. Wang De walked in and coughed twice, but did not punish them. It is natural for children of 6 or 7 years old to play, but they just need guidance. Too much punishment will only make them feel inferior and withdrawn, and then lose confidence and develop bad personalities. Okay, go sit outside. Wang De said, and the children all got up and walked outside. After they sat down, everyone behaved well and didn't dare to say much. The 4 who were playing around lowered their heads and kept silent, as if they had done something wrong and were waiting for criticism and education. The path of cultivation is already extremely difficult. You are not talented, so you need to work harder and cherish your time. Today, I will teach you for the first time. I will not teach you anything related to cultivation. How about telling you a story? Wang De said. When everyone heard this, they were all excited, but suddenly there was some confusion. There was a noise, and Wang De coughed again, followed by a burst of pressure, Calming the noise. Please recommend and collect. Chapter 13, People Expelled Many Years Ago. Master Wangda, your cultivation is inferior to Master Zimin and Master Wang Lin, and you're not much older than us. Don't you understand the knowledge of cultivation? That's why you're telling us stories? Just as everyone was quiet, a voice rang out. Wangda looked over and saw a little girl with pigtails. There were 2 girls among the 7 people, and Wangda had some impression of this little girl. She had a low-grade water elemental spiritual root and was a chosen child of the family. Her name was Wang Zai, nicknamed Jia, and everyone called her Wang Ya. She hadn't been to the mountain before, and she was a year older than the other 5, now 7 years old. You're right, my cultivation is not high, only the 3rd level of key training, but that's not why I'm telling you stories. Wangda's tone didn't blame her for her contradictory nature, but rather praised her questioning spirit. Few people in this world possess this kind of spirit. While adults' minds have been worn down, these children, on the other hand, still have voices of doubt. This is the downside of family relationships. The ethos of ruler-ruler, minister-minister, father-father, and son-son is deeply ingrained. Even in cultivation, they adhere to established rules and regulations, clinging to established practices without any innovation. Wangda knew that even the path of cultivation was explored by predecessors, and wasn't unchangeable. It was the fixed ideologies of this world that made them unable to change. Therefore, he encouraged these questions and objections, not just to save face. Since Master Wangda doesn't want to talk about cultivation, then I won't listen. Is that okay? I don't want to waste my time cultivating. Wang Ya's words surprised Wangda. You can say that. You really don't need to listen to my stories anymore. Wangda noticed that Wang Ya was one of the people who had been practicing alone when he entered the room earlier. She was consistent in her words and actions, and her mind was strong. So Wangda allowed her to leave alone to practice breathing techniques in her room. Seeing this, some of the other children were confused, while others gained some understanding. Suddenly, another person stood up. It was a child of Wang Ya's age with a low-grade earth elemental spiritual root. I don't want to hear stories anymore. I want to practice, too. The little boy was a little shy. His weak personality wouldn't have allowed him to say such words. His family had taught him, and his elders had taught him, that he must obey the immortal master's words, never say anything disobedient, and do nothing rebellious. He was, however, filled with a competitive spirit. Of the 7 initiates, only 2 possessed low-grade spiritual roots. The others hadn't yet sensed spiritual energy and were naturally no match for them. Wangda, realizing he was one of the solitary practitioners, agreed, then turned to look at Wang Xiaozhen. He was the last of the 3 practitioners. Wang Xiaozhen let out a long, drawn-out sigh. I still want to hear Big Brother tell stories. Everyone else called him master, but Wang Xiaozhen was an exception. That day, after a few words with Wangda, he realized he wasn't like the village teachers, who were all about hierarchy, or like the people's master and Wang Lin's master, who were constantly shouting. He kept calling Wang the Big Brother. The other 4, seeing the 2 men leave, suddenly remembered their elders' teachings on cultivation. They immediately felt this was a test from Master Wangda. Following the lead of the 2, they all stood up, saying they didn't want to listen to stories but to practice. Wangda agreed, believing the stories he was going to tell them were meant to teach them not to neglect their cultivation and indulge in play. After they all stood up and left, Wangda saw only Wang Xiaozhen, and suddenly felt that this 6 or 7-year-old child was so mature, truly different from the children of his previous life. They're all gone. Do you still want to listen? Wangda asked. Big Brother, if you want to talk, please talk faster. I can't let them sense the spiritual energy before I do, otherwise I'll fall behind and be bullied again, Wang Xiaozhen said. Wangda smiled. In that case, then I won't talk today. You should practice too. Wangda sat in the courtyard, watching them all cross-legged in their rooms, and then went up to offer some guidance. Now that Wang Lin was injured, Wangda would take on Wang Lin's responsibilities, taking turns with Wang Zimin in teaching them. Just after half a day, Wang Zimin ran down the mountain, holding a copy of the Clan Chronicles. Clan leader, I found him. He is indeed a member of our Wang family. Wangda stood up while mumbling. Clan leader, look, this is a record from many years ago. In the family's 5-year competition, Wang Zuzi won first place. He is truly the best in the clan, a genius rarely seen in a century. Wang Zimin flipped the pages open and showed them to Wang De. Wang De looked at it and responded. There was obviously no clear information here, so Wang Zimin flipped the pages again. Clan leader, look, this person is a genius in the clan. Whenever there is a major event, his name is recorded. He is a natural talent. Wang Zimin flipped the pages one by one for Wang De to see. Wang Zuzi, 33 years old, 9th level key training, served as the family's guardian elder. This was his last appearance in the clan chronicles, and there's no record of him after that. Given how talented he was, how could there be no discrepancies in the subsequent records? I suspect, as we've speculated, that he was expelled from the family for some unspecified incident. The clan doesn't record expulsions, so I believe he's the one. Furthermore, this happened over 40 years ago, and judging by his age and cultivation, it's undoubtedly him. That being said, it's not definitive. I'll test him another day and see how he performs. If he's truly a member of our Wang family, I'll definitely find a way to keep him. I'm sure he still has ties to the clan after this catastrophe. Any resentment from the expulsion over 40 years ago should be forgotten by now, Wang De said. That's great. With a foundation establishment cultivator at the helm, I believe the family won't be afraid of other forces, Wang Zimin said with a smile. Wang De asked him to watch over the people in the house while he flew to the western orchard to see where the two were, so he could find out more. Arriving at the cliff's edge, he saw the two men affectionately kissing each other, and Wang De quickly withdrew. Both were at the foundation establishment stage, and if they had known he was peeping, they would have noticed. By the time he returned, it was already getting dark. The two men hadn't gone to the house Wang Zimin had prepared, but instead spent the night on the cliff watching the stars. It was quite a leisurely and elegant experience. Wang De spent the night cultivating, while Wang Zimin watched over the 7 children below. In the morning, just as Wang De was about to collect his contributions, he noticed a change in the system, and quickly checked. Clan location, Kinjentropy Mountain. Clan head, Wang De. Clan size, level 2, level 4. Clan rank, 9th rank. Clan members, 12. Clan contributions, 34. Family reputation, 23, 98. Firstly, yesterday's contribution was 34 points, which made Chen Ran very happy. He clicked on the collection interface, but found that 2 unknown people also contributed 13 points to him. Wang De clicked on the second-level interface of family members. Wang De, clan leader, key training level 3. Wang Zimin, key training level 5. Wang Lin, key training level 4. In addition to the original people, there were 2 unknown people. I'm afraid they were the 2 from yesterday. I didn't expect that they could also be included in his system. They just didn't have names, otherwise he could have identified their identities. Chapter 14, Working Hard to Build a Training Room. Wang De immediately claimed the rewards, having never expected that the family rank would unlock daily benefits. While the rewards weren't particularly generous, they were nonetheless quite good. 20 low-grade spirit stones per day equaled 600 per month, a considerable income. Furthermore, the spiritual herbs and refined iron were even better. After leaving the house, Wang De had no time to bother with the 2 men. However, he still had the 5,000 spirit stones from yesterday, and he was thinking about spending them to acquire resources and expand the system, which would allow him to trade them for better resources. However, he realized he couldn't spend them all, he needed to keep some for emergencies. He then withdrew 4,500 low-grade spirit stones and gave them to Wang Lin, instructing him to go to Heiji Market and purchase a large 5-element spirit gathering array. Setting up a training room as soon as possible was paramount. A training room is the most fundamental and crucial part of a faction. For cultivators, cultivation is undoubtedly paramount, and a training room is where the speed of cultivation is accelerated. Just like Kinjentropy Mountain, the difference between the plains below and the mountain surface lies in the spiritual energy. It's not that there's no spiritual energy below, but it's scarce, while it's abundant on the mountain surface. However, the spiritual energy below the mountain is still not dense enough, which only slightly accelerates a cultivator's cultivation. Therefore, a cultivator's goal is to gather the rich spiritual energy from a large area around them, allowing them to cultivate more rapidly. Therefore, the purpose of a training room is to gather and store spiritual energy, and also to accelerate the cultivator's absorption of spiritual energy through cultivation. This is why Wang De, Wang Zimin, and Wang Lin all agreed to build a training room first. The most basic method for gathering spiritual energy is a large 5-element spirit gathering array. This way, the entire training room can gather and concentrate the spiritual energy from the mountain. Of course, in addition to this large 5-element spirit gathering array, there are also various supporting items, such as the 5 elements cushion, which can change the 5 elements of spiritual energy, and the Black Hong Lantern, which can make the concentrated spiritual energy more stable and easier to absorb. These are the common cultivation materials needed for a training room, all of which are accelerated cultivation items refined based on the experience of predecessors. Besides these, there were also elixirs. When practicing in the training room, one could take elixirs that accelerated the induction of spiritual energy and those that accelerated the absorption of spiritual energy. The training room was enormously expensive, not just the spirit gathering array, but also various other facilities. Wang could only purchase them piecemeal. First, a general framework was needed, the most basic being a large 5-element spirit gathering array. The rest would have to be assembled gradually. Wang Zimin had previously compiled a list of essential training room equipment, all necessary. 4,500 spirit stones were definitely not enough, so he could only purchase the essentials. Naturally, the task of purchasing fell to Wang Lin. After a night of recuperation, Wang Lin had recovered considerably. He simply left as instructed, going out to buy supplies to avoid the 2 foundation establishment cultivators. Wang then descended the mountain again, having previously asked Wang Tu to bring some furniture from Kangentropy County. While there were several houses and 2 courtyards at the mountain gate, they were bare save for straw mats and a few crude tables. Although these furniture and beds were ordinary items, they at least looked presentable. Otherwise, it would have been a bit inappropriate for them to sleep on straw mats and sit on the dirt all day. Wang Tu personally brought people with several carriages full of furniture. Wang gave him 7 or 8 low-grade spirit stones, but he was also heartbroken. The saddest thing in the world of immortal cultivation was to exchange spirit stones for silver. But there was no other way. Although they were all descendants of the Wang family, they were all made by craftsmen after all. Even if they were not given silver, they still had to live, right? So Wang would rather the 3 of them build a few simple houses than ask mortals to build them up the mountain. Spirit stones, if exchanged for silver and given to mortals, would be a waste. Clan leader, there is no need to give spirit stones. With the current situation at the mountain gate, our county government still has a lot of silver in reserve. We should also make some contribution to the mountain gate. Wang Du also knew how sad it was to exchange spirit stones for silver, and he said immediately, "No need. We are cultivators. Life is not easy for you mortals. If I ask for favors from you, wouldn't I be no different from an animal?" Although Wang Du felt heartbroken, he didn't agree with Wang Tu's argument. Wang Tu couldn't say anything more and accepted the spirit stones. After several attempts, half a day had passed and Wang Lin also returned from Heiji Market. Wang Da and the other 2 spent half a day setting up the large spirit gathering array and decorating the various cultivation supplies. Suddenly, they felt that the wooden planks of the outer huts were a bit shabby. These huts were built by the 3 of them. They were certainly shelter from the wind and rain, but they were not beautiful. This could only be discussed later. When they had more money, they would go to Wang Tu and hire some craftsmen to build it. It should also look like a mountain gate. However, the thought of exchanging spirit stones for silver distressed Wang Da, and Wang Zimin strongly opposed it, preferring a less attractive appearance. Wang Da clicked on the second-level interface of the family size. Clan Scale Level 1, increases the cultivation speed of all clan members by 1. Clan Scale Level 2, increases the spiritual energy density of all clan locations by 1. Clan points. 930, 1,500, 1 small spiritual spring plus 50 11 houses plus 38 2 courtyards plus 33 small 5-element spiritual gathering arrays plus 301 large 5-element spiritual gathering array plus 535 elements futons plus 60 spiritual bodhisattva grove, seeded, plus 0.013 miniature flower beds plus 1 forest plus 1 3 heart clearing grasses, all spiritual energy lost, plus 0.51 small spiritual ginseng bead plus 0.9. Upon closer inspection, he discovered many remnants of items within the mountain gate. These spiritual herbs and medicinal herbs must have been seeds from previous plantings. They had surprisingly survived the fire and had even recovered some spiritual energy in the past few days. However, Wang Da ignored them. He could now receive 2 heart-clearing grasses daily, so there was no need to search for them. Even after spending 4,500 spirit stones, the clan still hasn't reached 1,500. It seems more construction is needed. Clan leader, I've decided we should be frugal. These 5,000 spirit stones aren't ours to begin with. What will we do if that group returns in 2 months? Wang Lin asked from the side, naturally aware of yesterday's events. The more we save, the poorer we become. In this world, strength is what matters most. As for that group, I have my own plans. The first is to retain those 2 foundation establishment experts. If we can't, I believe we won't be afraid of them in 2 months. You just need to do your job well. Wang De said, then ignored him. Wang Lin had spent the past few days with Wang De and felt that this clan leader was extraordinary. Although he still didn't believe he could handle the group, at most he could only retain those 2 experts. Please recommend and add to your collection. Investors are welcome. I'm going to change my status in the next few days. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 15. The boy leaves home and the old man returns. At the foot of the mountain, Wang Zimin was teaching 7 children the method of breathing and key training, and Wang De did not bother them. Instead, the 2 people on the cliff came back and said they wanted to go for a walk down the mountain and asked Wang De to lead the way. Wang De wanted to talk to them, so he happily agreed. At the foot of the mountain, 3 people flew all the way. Wang De flew with his sword, while the other 2 flew directly into the air. Wang De could not help but sigh that these 2 people were really strong. In fact, the cultivators who established their foundation could not fly directly, but needed to fly with objects, but these 2 people could fly directly without the help of external objects. Obviously they had some special magic weapon. After walking for a while, Wang De followed the 2 people in the same direction. The villages were scattered, and the man looked around, as if he was looking for something, but he searched in vain, so he asked Wang De. Do you know there's a village nearby called Titao? It's also owned by the Wang family. I don't often leave the mountains, and none of my clan keeps track of mortal matters. Why don't I take you to Congentuo County and ask them? Perhaps they know, Wang De said, leading them on his sword all the way to the Congentuo County government office. Wang too, seeing that it was Wang De, naturally greeted him personally. However, the 2 people behind him, a man and a woman, were unfamiliar, though they too were from heaven, so they must be immortal masters. Wang De then inquired about Titao village on the man's behalf. Wang too, taking the matter seriously, quickly summoned Wang into the government office to investigate Titao village. It turned out that over a decade ago, 2 high-ranking cultivators had fought nearby, and the Titao people below had been accidentally affected. As a result, houses were destroyed, leaving a huge crater. Farmland and trees were also destroyed. Forced to live near the mountains and rivers, they moved forward, rebuilding their homes and reclaiming the wasteland. Are there any people in Titao village who were born as a result of that battle? The man asked hurriedly. Yes, there was, but it was decades ago. I don't remember it clearly, and there's no record in the county annals. Mortals shouldn't mess with the affairs of immortal cultivators. After Wang Tu finished speaking, the man seemed to recall the past and sighed to himself. Seeing the man's sadness, Wang De seemed to have some guesses, but didn't say anything. Wang Tu, on the other hand, looked puzzled. These 2 were obviously not disciples of the mountain sect, they must be other cultivators. Could it be that there was some grudge or hatred in the battle that year? There is a difference between immortals and mortals after all. Don't be too sad. The comforting voice of the woman next to them interrupted the 2 men's thoughts. One person's sadness. Everyone came back to their senses. Wang De said goodbye to Wang Tu and took the 2 men to the mountain in front of the former site of Titao village. An old man at the village entrance saw the 3 people flying over and quickly stood up, a little panicked, and shouted to the village. Several women in the village came out immediately after hearing the shouts. They were all panicked. In this place, the most feared thing was to hear the word immortal master. To cultivators, mortals were like sheep in a sheepfold, to be eaten and killed at will. But one of them, who had seen Wang De in the county town a few days ago, spoke up. This is our Wang family's immortal master. There is no need to worry. As soon as these words were spoken, everyone's worry turned into joy, as if they had experienced a life and death A rebirth after a disaster. Why did the immortal master of our clan come to our village? Could it be that a child in the village has spiritual roots? Another woman joked, and everyone immediately came out to welcome and kneel down to greet the arrival of the three immortal masters. After Wang landed, he quickly asked everyone to stand up. But the man next to him. Human nature is hard to shake. Being a slave and his servants brings me back to this place I hate, and these disgusting rules. That's wrong. Although I dislike this behavior, I have no intention of changing it. They felt reassured when I accepted their obeisance. The rules of the world have always been this way, but individuals cannot change them. The etiquette of the human world is the same in the world of immortal cultivation. We are from the same family, and I am only 13 or 14 years old. I have the will but not the ability. It's better to let them be at ease, Wang said. Wang's words impressed the two men, and for a moment, they were speechless. After the obeisance, the women and children all stepped aside, and silence fell. Only Muramasa, accompanied by a village teacher and two men, all bowed halfway, and welcomed them into the village, inquiring about their visit. Wang looked at the man behind him, who stepped forward and spoke. Do you know of a family named Wang Yishan in the village? Muramasa was young, perhaps in his 30s or 40s. He pondered for a long time. While there were many households in the village, he was Muramasa after all, so he naturally knew the names of each family. However, after all his thoughts, he couldn't remember anyone named Wang Yishan. Seeing his frown, the man slapped his forehead and muttered to himself, I've lost track of time. He asked again. Do you know Wang Zui? You mean old man Yi? I know him. He's at home now, Muramasa replied. A man behind him hurried out and brought in a child, about Wang's age. Master Immortal is looking for your family. Go and call your father back from the fields. The child, still a teenager, disappeared in a flash. Wang, accompanied by his teacher, headed for old man Yi's home. As the men left, the news spread rapidly throughout the surrounding area. There was bound to be a happy event in old man Yi's family, unrelated to his own. There were those who felt disappointed, while others were happy. When the four of them reached the door, they saw the child running back with a dark-skinned middle-aged man. Dad, that's them. The teacher said they are immortal masters from the clan, and they are here to visit our family. Greetings, three great immortal masters. The dark-skinned man obviously didn't know etiquette either. He bowed awkwardly, just imitating the way he had seen the teacher perform this gesture before. He was a little puzzled. There were no immortal cultivators in his family, so why did they come to visit him? Could it be that his son had spiritual roots? That was impossible. He only had this one son, 13 or 14 years old, and he had tested his spiritual roots 3 times, so it was definitely not his. They are here to visit Grandpa. The child seemed to see the dark-skinned man's confusion and spoke up. Are you Wang Zui's son? Asked the man behind Wang. How could he not answer the immortal master's question? The dark-skinned man immediately came to his senses. Yes. The man stepped forward, wanting to take a closer look, but behind him, a stooped old woman, dressed in coarse cloth, descended from the mountain. Behind her was a bundle of firewood, considerably taller than her frail frame. The man, no longer holding his composure, stepped forward, untied the firewood, and set it down. Sister-in-law, the man cried out, dropping to his knees in tears. The old woman, seeing the handsome man with a clean face beneath her, felt herself covered in dust. She hesitated to reach out, rubbing her eyes. Finally, her eyes widened. You are Zuzi? It's me, the man replied, and the old woman hurriedly pulled him into the house. Wang, watching from the side, was struck by the difference between immortals and mortals. Even immortal cultivators could not escape the grudges and hatreds of the mundane world. Hearing the name Zuzi, Wang knew for sure who he was. But after over 40 years of absence, he didn't expect such a situation to arise. It was rather amusing to see a foundation establishment cultivator weeping so bitterly at this moment. What are you laughing at? Do you find such genuine emotion ridiculous? The woman beside him looked at Wang with a hint of annoyance. I simply want to say, you haven't been back for over 40 years. If you're coming back now, you shouldn't be here. What's the point? If you're attached to the mortal world, why did you leave back then? If you want to leave this world behind, what's the point of coming here today? Wang said calmly. What do you know? We had special reasons back then, and we had to do this. If it weren't for the destruction of the 5 spirit sect, We probably wouldn't be back now, the woman said. Wang had something to say, but he didn't dare to say it, so he could only smile. Angering a foundation establishment cultivator was more than he could handle right now. Soon, another gray-haired old man emerged, and Wang Zuzi immediately stepped forward. Upon meeting, Wang Zuzi and Wang Zui both burst into tears. Several people entered the house, but outside the main hall, a middle-aged woman came back. She was Wang Zui's daughter-in-law. She went to prepare lunch with a dark-skinned man. Wang naturally followed them and stayed here to eat some earthly food. Chapter 16, a boy of the same age herding cattle. During the meal, introductions were made one by one. Wang Zui had a son, a grandson, and a granddaughter who had married inter-village with the surname Liu. None of them had heard of Wang Zuzi. Firstly, when he left, Wang Zui had just married, so naturally, they didn't know he had a younger brother. Secondly, the family rumor at the time was that Wang Zuzi had died in battle, so Wang Zui naturally didn't mention this to his descendants, simply saying that there had been a monk in the family. Wang Zuzi also introduced a woman next to him, named Zisu, as his daughter-in-law. For a moment, the atmosphere was lively, with calls of sister-in-law, brother-in-law, uncle, and great-uncle. In the afternoon, Wang Zuzi and Wang Zui moved chairs to sit in front of the door and set out some tea. Wang Zui's son and grandson accompanied them, and Wang Da also sat nearby, listening to the two talk. Wang Zuzi's words were filled with apologies. First, his father, Wang Yishan, had died, and he hadn't been able to see him. If he had been there, he could have refined elixirs to prolong life and cure illnesses, and this wouldn't have been the case. Second, after his death, the family fell into decline, and he couldn't provide for them. His eldest sister-in-law, now in her 70s and 80s, still went up the mountain to chop firewood and work the fields to plant rice. Now, Wang Zui was old and unable to walk, so he just lived at home, waiting to die. Wang Zui didn't feel much sadness. They were ordinary people, living ordinary lives. In his youth, he had Wang Zuzi's support and had taken on some elixirs. Now, at over 80, he was considered old, longer than many people in the village. He had no regrets. However, knowing today that his younger brother was still alive fulfilled another wish. His younger brother had been gifted since childhood. He had been accepted into the clan to practice at the age of 6, and he was the pride of the family. Wang Zui had often used his name to intimidate people, and it had paid off. The group chatted for a long time and prepared to go up the mountain to sweep Wang Yishan's grave. Wang Da naturally did not go, but waited in the village. The news of Wang Zuzi's return spread like wildfire, and few people in the village went to the fields. They all gathered here and there to discuss. Wang Da was sitting alone in front of Wang Zui's house, basking in the sun, when he suddenly saw a young man in the mountains. He was wearing tattered clothes, holding a piece of wild grass in his mouth, holding a thick rope in his hand, and behind him was an old cow with a calf. The young man was humming some country tunes, but the lyrics were vulgar and a little obscene. Wang Da was thinking, and suddenly heard this tune, which he found quite interesting, so he paid attention to it. When they got closer, the two looked at each other. The young man was about the same age as Wang Da, but his skin was dark, but he could vaguely see a hint of disdain between his eyebrows. Wang Da's clothes made him feel that he was not a mountain man, so he naturally looked down on him. "Do you have spiritual roots?" Wang Da noticed him because he could sense their presence. And since Wang Da could detect them, it was clear that his spiritual roots weren't too bad, at least low grade. "How do you know you're an immortal master?" the young man asked, surprised. The two cows behind him, one old and one young, also stopped. "Yes, since you have spiritual roots, why don't you join the clan to cultivate?" Wang Da asked. "Clan, you mean the Wang family?" the young man asked. "You're not a member of the Wang family?" Wang Da, understanding the young man's meaning, asked in surprise. "No, my father, surname Qin, was in trouble and fled to Titao village. My mother's surname is Jin. She was originally married to Titao village, but her husband died, so my father married her. Naturally, I'm not a Wang anymore," the young man said. "What's your name? What spiritual roots do you have?" Wang Da asked. "Qin Yi, 3-element, miscellaneous spiritual roots, water, wood, and fire," Qin Yi said. "Qin Yi, that's a nice name. Wait, what did you say? 3 spiritual roots? Water, wood, and fire? 3 elements mutually beneficial?" Wang Da was a little surprised. Although the other person only had low-grade spiritual roots, 3 spiritual roots were rare, so he was naturally surprised. Yes, the Wang family immortal master who tested me said that with my talent, if I cultivate well, I can be better than ordinary low-grade spiritual roots, but if I'm not careful, there are risks and I could die young. Seeing Wang Da's interest, the young man, who was also an immortal master, naturally moved a nearby chair, tied the 2 cows under a nearby tree, and sat down. If that's the case, why don't you cultivate? Although you're not a member of the Wang family, you're on our Wang family territory. If you find a way around it, you can enter the clan to cultivate, Wang Da asked. We thought the same thing at the time. So my father used his connections to find my mother's first uncle and went to Congentropi County, saying he wanted to adopt me. That way, I'd be considered a member of the clan and could cultivate within the clan. After all, it's not easy for a child with spiritual roots to emerge from the village, Kenya said. So what happened next? Wang Da asked. I didn't go, Kenya said. Why not? Wang Da asked. Kenya sighed and said, they said my mother was unfaithful and remarried, losing her chastity. Our family didn't have a good reputation in the village to begin with. And then they insisted on asking for benefits. My father scraped together money and begged me, but I couldn't stand it anymore and said I wouldn't go to practice anymore. Now I regret it. If I had really practiced, they would have been better off. I wasted a great opportunity because of my momentary anger. Now even if I wanted to practice, I can't. Indeed, judging by your age, you're probably 15 or 16 now. You could still learn, but your practice would be extremely slow, and I'm afraid you wouldn't achieve much, Wang Da said. I know it's useless to regret it now. Kenya stood up and walked away, leading the cow. Wang Da watched him walk away, and then saw Wang Zuzi and his family returning from the mountain. It was getting dark, and the family was busy inside. Wang Zuzi came out again, bringing Zisuo with him. Seeing no one at the door, Wang Da tried to persuade him to stay. As soon as Wang Zuzi saw Wang Da wanted to test him, he knew what he was thinking, but his face was melancholy, and he was clearly troubled. Today, we are meeting as family. Wang Zuzi, you are also a member of the Wang family. Regardless of what happened back then, the 5-spirit sect is now destroyed, and those in the family who knew about it are all dead. The family is struggling now, and we need people. Wang Da was talking eloquently, but Wang Zuzi interrupted him. If I could stay, of course I would. But you don't know the whole story of what happened back then. If I stay, it will still bring unnecessary trouble to the family. Can you tell me about it? Wang Da asked. Wang Zuzi hesitated and still didn't speak, so Wang Da asked again. Could it be that you have offended other forces? Not other forces, but... Wang Zuzi didn't continue here, but changed the subject. Just know that if I tell you, you'll chase me away, so I won't. I know the family's current situation. I've been here for the past 2 months, and I'll help you eliminate the remaining 5 spirit sect members. As for anything else, I can't help you much. If the family faces a major crisis in the future, you can come to me. I'll do what I can. With that, Wang Zuzi handed over 1,000 miles sound transmission talisman. If anything happens, crush this talisman, and I'll be back in time. You. Wang Da wanted to say more, but Wang Zuzi had already gone back inside. There's still work to do within the family, so you should go back. I'll be staying at my brother's for the next few days. Wang Zuzi's voice transmission echoed through Wang Da, and Wang Da marveled at the power of the Foundation establishment cultivators. With no other options, Wang Da flew back to the mountain gate. After a sleepless night, with no focus on cultivation, Wang Da still longed to keep the 2 of them. Even with this system, the family wouldn't be safe in the short term. Having them around would provide an extra layer of security for the near future. Even if it doesn't work, I should let them stay for a few more days so I have enough time to develop. By then, when they leave, it won't make much difference whether they were there or not. Please collect and recommend. My investment has paid off, so please support me. Even a vote would be fine. Chapter 17 The wind blows the willows back to their mother's home. The morning sun shone brightly. Seeing the couple absent, Wang Lin emerged for some fresh air and headed down the mountain to teach. Wang Da collected his daily contributions and cultivated for another day, not seeking out Wang Zuzi. If he had stayed longer, he could have waited 2 months, by which time the clan would have something to rely on. Another day passed. Wang De traded his contributions for spirit stones, storing them in his stored ring. He also returned to the mountain to check on the children's progress. Still, there wasn't much progress. After all, their talent was so limited that a few days wouldn't yield much. By noon, Wang Lin's teaching was complete, and Wang De was about to join him as he ascended the mountain. Suddenly, Wang Lin called out. From the horizon, groups of 2 or 3 were approaching on flying swords, evidently cultivators themselves. Wang De muttered to himself, without a clan protecting formation, how could we be so unprotected? Anyone could just fly straight to the mountain gate without even a word of warning. This time, Wang De didn't go up, as the enemy was simply too numerous. Go down the mountain first. If anything seems off, go to Titao village and find Wang Zuzi immediately. Wang De had given these instructions, but with so many people on the other side, Wang Lin wouldn't be able to escape and report to Titao village. But me and those two. Wang Lin hesitated. Wang De looked disappointed. What time is it now? You're still thinking about these things? Even if Wang Zuzi kills you, you must go and tell them to come. Yes. Wang Lin, mortified by Wang De's words, hurried down the mountain. However, the group above had already landed. Watching them fly down and land in the yard, Wang Lin didn't run either. It was too late. Wang De shielded the children behind him and studied them carefully. There were more than 10 people in total, all women, ranging in age, but the youngest was in her 20s, not Wang De's age. Wang De didn't recognize them, and before he could speak, he saw Wang Zimin flying down the mountain, obviously having spotted them. Wang Zimin landed and, upon seeing one of them, his face lit up with excitement, calling out, "Cousin." Wang De finally grasped their identities and breathed a sigh of relief. Once they landed, they looked around. Down below, there was only a courtyard, and 7 children behind Wang De. Weeds had begun to grow around them, and the distant woods were riddled with potholes, leaving no idea what lay beyond. 5 or 6 women looked at the scene, tears welling in their eyes. I never imagined our clan would be in such a state. Several others surveyed the courtyard before them, also shabby and crude. The wooden planks were uneven, with bumps and ridges in places. Come on, stop crying. Every clan is in trouble these days. To still have the mountain gate and these 3 alive is a blessing, one of the leading women chided. Wang Zimin was pulled aside by his cousin, and it was unclear what they were saying. The leading woman stepped forward and looked at Wang De. Are you Wang De? Wang De nodded. You've grown up now, and you're still so pretty. I held you in my arms when you were little, do you remember? The leading woman said. Wang De shook his head, and the woman laughed, which helped to brighten the mood and alleviate the sadness. Everyone gathered, no longer dwelling on the sad past, and the leading woman began to introduce the others. We are all members of the Wang family, but we married into other clans. This time, we heard that our natal family had suffered a great disaster, so we left together and came back to visit. Wang De was stunned, speechless for a moment. According to seniority, you should call me aunt. Your grandfather and I are cousins. The leading woman stopped teasing the young man and spoke seriously. Aunt. Wang De bowed. The other 7 are all 1 generation older than you, so you can just call them aunt, the leading woman said. Wang De bowed one by one. Hello, aunt. The rest are all of the same generation as you, so you can call them sisters, the leading woman continued. Hello, sisters. Wang De nodded slightly again. Wang De greeted everyone one by one, only to laugh at how he had laughed at Wang Zuzi the day before yesterday for meeting his relatives, which made him feel awkward. He never thought he would find himself in the same situation today. A few days ago, I heard Zixing say that only 3 people are left in the Wang family. I was really worried. But every family has suffered a great disaster, and there are many things to do at home. I just asked them to come back and visit yesterday. Seeing them today really makes us a little sad. The leading woman explained the whole story, and Wang De followed. The group went up the mountain, leaving Wang Lin alone below to watch the 7 children practice. Tell me about the current situation in the clan. The woman walked with Wang De, and the others followed behind. As you can see, there are only 3 of us men left. The 7 people down the mountain were newly recruited a few days ago. They can only come one by one. It's unclear how long it will take to restore the old situation. Wang De complained. These people returned because they cared about the Wang family, and Wang De was prepared to extract some benefits from them. If they just came to visit and then went back to their own families, it would be meaningless for the development of the clan. What the Wang family wanted now was tangible benefits. Thank you three for your hard work. If you have any difficulties, remember to look for us. Although I am in the Zhao family, I am also a member of the Wang family. The ant followed Wang's words and continued. Yes, now all the houses are destroyed, and the communities are in ruins. Everything else is fine, but this training room cannot be delayed. We just recruited 7 disciples. If they succeed in practicing Qi, but have no place to practice, it will be troublesome. Wang said. The group entered the somewhat dilapidated training area above, and everyone looked around. Although every family had suffered, none of them had anything like Gengentropy Mountain, which was truly desolate. Although it's simple, it still has a large 5-element spirit gathering array, so it's still quite good, the ant said. You may not know, but this 5-element spirit gathering array was also very difficult to put together. Now that the clan has no other resources, we only use 1 spirit stone, and 1 less spirit stone, Wang continued. Although her face didn't show tears, her words were quite touching, and the women were moved by her words. I also know that these spirit stones were collected by the few of us. There aren't many, only about 2,000. Don't think it's too little. It's not easy for us to save this much. The ant pulled out 20 high-grade spirit stones from her storage ring and handed them to Wang. Some of those who can't return have done their best, so please don't blame them. Wang bowed deeply. Every family is having a hard time right now, and I know that. Naturally, there will be no blame. I'll be satisfied if everyone can come back to visit me. Chapter 18 A meal that cannot be reunited. Okay, we'll stay at home for the next few days. Any help we can give is appreciated. After all, it's my mother's family. The ant turned and spoke to the group. The women had been chatting and making a lot of noise in the back. Some were crying, some were sighing in sorrow, and a few were dazed. But now, after hearing what the ant said, they all took action. After Wang Zimian finished chatting with his cousin, he took them to the spiritual spring. Wang chatted with the ant for a while longer. When they arrived at the spiritual spring, a boiler had been set up next to it, and a simple house seemed to be used for cooking. You 3 grown men who have only survived on fasting pills every month. Today we'll let you eat some meat, one of the ants muttered, and Wang Zimian was deeply moved. After about an hour of busy work, a large table was set up in the open air. Wang was unfamiliar with most of the dishes. He only knew the spiritual rice and some of the animal meat, which were obviously rich in spiritual energy and had some knowledge of their benefits. The original body was the son of the Wang family's head, so naturally he had this knowledge. However, after Wang came through his body, he only had the most important memories, so he didn't know. Wang Lin was also called up from the mountain. As for the children, they hadn't yet cultivated their Qi into their bodies, so naturally they couldn't eat these things, so they were arranged to practice in the house. Wang Lin asked Wang about his doubts, saying that he was not knowledgeable enough. Because of his low cultivation level in the family, he had never tasted these good things. Hearing him say this, everyone naturally introduced themselves. There was a round joke on the table. An ant stood up and said, "This is anaconda meat. This anaconda evolved from a giant snake. If they find the right opportunity, they can transform into a dragon. Although dragon meat is not something we can eat, this anaconda meat does have some benefits. My wife was in West Beast Mountain, looking for mounts and pets for the clan. Coincidentally, another sect took over West Beast Mountain, and she got this giant anaconda. It's a treasure for cultivation, so I found some and brought it back for everyone to try." After saying this, everyone picked up their chopsticks, picked up a piece, and took a mouthful. They felt spiritual energy rushing through their bodies in a warm current in their danshan. This anaconda meat is so nutritious, it's even more powerful than taking a few key training pills. Wang Lin was greedy and ate the first piece. Feeling it was very nourishing, he ate another piece. Suddenly, he felt a burst of sensation in his danshan. Fortunately, the old lady helped him to resolve it, otherwise his body might have exploded and damaged his foundation. Since this anaconda meat is so spiritual and can enhance cultivation, why not refine it into an elixir for easier absorption? Wouldn't it be a waste if it were cooked? Wang Zimian asked in confusion. Upon hearing this, the ant sighed. That's true, but this anaconda is too high grade. An ordinary alchemy furnace would have difficulty even refining it, let alone making an elixir. And unfortunately, our family has suffered a great disaster. Both of our second-grade alchemists have died. If we were to hire one, the other ingredients for the elixir this anaconda can make would be hard to find, and the price would be high. It would be better to share it among everyone so it wouldn't be wasted. The others were also silent. Seeing everyone bow their heads in silence, one of the sisters stepped out to lighten the mood. Everyone, don't be so dejected. You've returned to your parents' home, and you're still acting like this. Cultivation is just like this, it's a fate. We should focus on our own tasks and not make the 3 Wang family members feel even more distressed. No one else was downcast, but the older sister made a few more jokes, which livened up the atmosphere again. I think the Artemisia selengensis this aunt brought is quite delicious, another sister said, eyeing an emerald green dish on the table. That's right, the Zhao family has inherited wood-type spiritual roots. These herbs and medicinal herbs from the outside world basically all come from the Zhao family. These are rare outsiders, and only the Zhao family can grow them, another aunt joked. The older aunt, feeling a little embarrassed by what she said, turned to the teaser. Have you planted the 100 or so gray-eyed trees I gave you last year? No, they're good, but our family's land doesn't have the spiritual land, and no one knows how to grow them. So I asked my wife to keep them, but they were all lost during the last attack on the Upper Palm Valley, the aunt replied. That's a waste, the aunt replied, and everyone else joked. Of the Wang family members who married out, those who were able to return during the Wang family's disaster were all concerned about their natal families. With the exception of cousin Wang Zimin, who still had a relative like Wang Zimin, the rest were left without a father or brother. Wang De was in charge of the family, and they were able to do this, so Wang De was naturally grateful. After lunch, everyone meditated for over an hour to digest the food. Wang Zimin and the cousin went down the mountain, saying they were going to visit their relatives, and Wang Zimin naturally accompanied them. Wang Zimin had gone there alone before. It was with one of their 5th uncles, Wang Zimin's father, and 6 siblings in total. Their grandparents were cultivators, and 5 of the 6 siblings possessed spiritual roots. Only this 5th uncle was born mortal, unfit for cultivation. He took some spiritual stones and went to Kangentropy County, where he bought some land and became immortal. His cousin, Wang Na, was the daughter of Wang Zimin's 2nd uncle. Upon hearing that only Zimin was still alive, she had intended to return to see him, but her aunts insisted on joining them, delaying their return until today. 2 others had also descended the mountain. These 2 were also from the mortal world, one 2nd generation, the other 3rd. Now that their fathers and brothers were dead, they only had one mortal family left. Wang Lin had gone down to look after the children again. His aunt, along with a group of female cultivators, had gone to the nearby orchard to plant some trees with seeds she had brought back. The Wang family is in such a state right now, with little to offer. She's a woman, and her cultivation isn't high. While she holds some seniority within the Zhao family, her words don't carry the weight of the family. She only brought some of her own personal contributions, along with some seeds her husband had asked for from the family, all easy to grow seeds. She'll stay and tend to them until they sprout and begin growing. They'll be easier to maintain after she leaves, giving the Wang family a source of cultivation resources and a way to support her family. Wang De is also trying to learn how to care for trees and herbs. The Wang family lacks such resources in their classics and other literature, and this woman has truly learned many of the Zhao family's planting techniques and skills. Wang De isn't saying she'll be planting trees herself, she's learning so she can teach her children when they grow up, which is also part of the family's development. Overnight, Wang De collected contributions, which were significantly higher than before, totaling 54 points. However, since these women were all practicing key cultivation, the other contributions haven't increased much. Please add this post to your collection, recommend it, and invest. Chapter 19, Meeting Old Friends and Reminiscing about the Past. Wang Zimin still hadn't returned, apparently spending the night in the mortal realm. The next day, the aunt went out to plant trees again, and Wang De followed. When it comes to cultivating spiritual herbs, medicinal herbs, and trees, the most important thing is wood spiritual roots, followed by water spiritual roots. Wang De, you don't have wood spiritual roots, but you do have water spiritual roots. Learning some cloud and rain cultivation techniques should be sufficient. The aunt primarily instructed Wang De, while the other female members of the family assisted. Every flower, plant, and tree has its own characteristics, but all remain essentially the same: rain, dew, sunlight, and the spiritual fluids of the earth. Wang De studied diligently. The spiritual spring he and Wang Zimin had cleared proved to be a useful tool for cultivation, but they had to be careful with the amount of water they used. Another day passed, and Wang's system had already accumulated over 100 contributions. It had to be said that the return of these female members had significantly increased his daily contributions. Wang only asked that they stay a few more days, so that the family could prosper. Unfortunately, things didn't go as planned. That morning, 2 families reported an emergency and returned home. They'd planted some flowers, plants, and trees, but they primarily focused on the nearby orchard. Firstly, the spiritual fruit trees were easy to grow. While not rare, they were still considered spiritual, and other flowers and plants naturally weren't as good as trees. Secondly, the fruit trees were easy to care for, and the 3 men weren't particularly attentive, so it was easy to make mistakes tending to other things. The aunt also left some seeds for Wang as a backup, saying, if things get tough and you can't wait for the flowers, plants, and trees to mature, you can sell these seeds for some spiritual stones. Wang agreed. Now that he could collect daily contributions, he naturally wouldn't trade resources for spiritual stones. These 2 are phoenix struck tree seeds. They're not available outside, so they're mine. I originally intended them for my grandson, who also has a wood-type spiritual root. But seeing my family's condition, I can't bear it, so I'll give them to you. The aunt pulled Wang aside, her face clearly hesitant. Upon seeing this, Wang, though unsure of what the phoenix struck tree was, could guess a few things and refused. I'm already delighted that my aunt has returned, but I dare not accept such an item. Although my family has fallen on hard times, I have my own plans and will never let the Wang family perish. He could accept other items. They were, after all, members of the Wang family, but this one, given to him by my aunt alone, was no ordinary item, and the name itself suggested it was no ordinary item. Although Wang wanted it, he saw my aunt's reluctance. She had originally intended it for her grandson, and it would be inappropriate for him to take it. Seeing this, my aunt didn't force her. A group of people gathered, and she led them back to the courtyard below. Wang Lin was currently teaching the 7 children the techniques of breathing and cultivating qi. Each displayed their own abilities, offering guidance and instruction, which amazed the children and further strengthened their resolve to cultivate. That evening, several more of them departed, not returning for 3 days. He worried about what was happening back home. The aunt was not in a hurry. She had wanted to go to the back mountain to pay tribute to her deceased relatives, father and brothers when she got up one day. However, etiquette did not allow it. A married woman was no longer a member of the Wang family. But Wang also spoke up and took them in to pay tribute to their relatives who died that night. After returning, those who stayed were busy in various places. Some expanded the spiritual spring, some cleared the rocks, and some repaired the houses. After all, they were no longer members of the Wang family. They just wanted to come back for a few days to help their natal family. At noon, Wang Zimin did not come back, but 2 figures appeared in the sky, a man and a woman, like mandarin ducks, flying down together. It turned out to be Wang Zuzi and his wife. The others did not recognize them when they saw them, but a few who were above the 5th level felt that the 2 had powerful cultivation and became a little alert. Wang wanted to step forward to introduce them, but when he remembered that Wang Zuzi was someone expelled from the family, he looked at Wang Zuzi again, meaning to ask his opinion. Wang Zuzi first looked everyone over and nodded to Wang, meaning no introductions were necessary. Then his gaze fell on the old lady. The old lady did the same, staring at Wang Zuzi with no expression on her face. The 2 knew each other, and everyone saw their expressions and speculated. Wang Zuzi's wife had also been staring at the old lady, and seeing the 2 of them in such a state, she quickly spoke up. "Second senior sister, how are you?" As soon as these words were spoken, everyone had their own suspicions. Wow, it seemed like another good show was about to begin, and the women's gossip hearts instantly erupted. Only Wang had an estimate in his mind. He knew that Wang Zuzi was only in his 70s or 80s, and the old lady was about the same age. The 2 of them should obviously know each other. He just prayed that the old lady didn't cause any trouble and bring up things from the past, otherwise his plan to keep Wang Zuzi would be in vain. Although Wang Zuzi verbally refused to stay, his hatred for the Wang family had been somewhat let go. Wang observed that he was determined to stay. Even if he couldn't stay, it would still be possible to let him use his cultivation to intimidate the outside world. Now that they met like this, he didn't know what would happen. "Who is your second senior sister? Your seductive tricks can seduce men. Do you think you can even seduce me? The ant said sternly, scolding him. Wang Zuzi's face darkened instantly. Wang decided inwardly. Although he couldn't tell the ant's cultivation level, it was obviously not at the foundation establishment stage. Wang Zuzi and his wife were both foundation establishment cultivators. If they took action, the Wang family would probably be in trouble. That day, Wang Lin had only glanced at Wang Zuzi's wife a few more times, and Wang Zuzi was so frightened that he vomited blood. Now that he had said this, it was unknown what Wang Zuzi was thinking. However, things did not go as Wang expected. Although Wang Zuzi's face darkened, he did not say a word, but spoke out. Second senior sister, please be respectful. Zishu is my wife now. I'm scolding you two for having an affair. You've done it without your parents' permission. Without a matchmaker's word. You've abandoned your family, your parents, and your sisters. You've only listened to the words of this slutty whore, and you've put your family in an unkind and unjust place. The women knew that the ant, while usually a bit temperamental, was also a gentle person. They had never expected her to resort to such vulgar language today. Wang De was startled again. Wang Zuzi's face grew increasingly grim, and he seemed on the verge of a violent outburst. He wanted to intervene, but the two of them were already engaged in a battle in an instant. Wang Zuzi's spiritual energy had already enveloped the ant. If you don't shut up, don't blame me for being rude. Zuzi, don't be impulsive. Zishu quickly released his own spiritual energy, forcing Wang Zuzi's spiritual energy back. Everyone saw that this woman's cultivation was even more advanced than the man's. Wang De was also surprised. It turned out that Wang Zuzi's cultivation was not as good as his wife's ISUO. However, the old lady had not reached the foundation building stage, so she could not release her spiritual energy. She just kept cursing, and all kinds of ugly words came out of her mouth. Seeing that the old lady's words were getting more and more unpleasant, Wang Zuzi ignored Zisuo's obstruction and hit the old lady with a burst of spiritual energy, causing her to fly backwards with blood flowing from her mouth. Although Zisuo's cultivation was higher than Wang Zuzi, she attacked at an extremely fast speed this time, and she was unable to stop it. Everyone was a little anxious, wondering why the old lady was like this. Just as they were about to step forward, they saw the old lady wink at everyone. Everyone was puzzled, but no one stepped forward. Wang De did not understand the old lady's intention. To anger a cultivator in the foundation building stage, isn't that courting death? But at this time, the old lady had a smile on her face and coughed twice, but she did not stop talking. You have already reached the initial stage of foundation building, yet you never think about who gave you this talent? Have you ever thought about your master? Have you ever thought about the family that nurtured you? You just walked away back then, but did you know that the 5-spirit sect forced the family to return people, injured dozens of disciples, and lost the lives of those disciples in vain? Wang Zuzi was speechless for a moment when he heard this, his face dull. Chapter 20, Ant's Strategy. Did you know that after you left, your fiancé broke into the mountain gate alone, leaving the master speechless and ashamed to live? That woman broke the mountain gate formation, captured the junior sister, and said she would force you out. Did you ever show up? The ant continued. Tears welled up in Wang Zuzi's eyes. He was completely unaware of all this. I never thought these things would happen. Wang Zuzi fell to his knees with a plop. What happened to them? They're all dead. You killed them all. The ant laughed 3 times. You were a child of destiny, and so was your fiancé. Did you ever imagine such consequences? Wang Zuzi was speechless. It's all my fault, Zisuo sighed. Wang De saw that the situation was probably going to take a turn for the worse. Wang Zuzi would not intervene this time and quickly stepped forward. The Wang family is in such a state now. Regardless of what happened in the past, we are all members of the Wang family. Now that things have come to this, the living should live well. He's right. If you truly repent, stay with the clan and atone for your sins, the ant replied. Wang Zuzi remained silent for a long time, tears streaming down his face. After a moment's pause, he came to his senses and asked, how did they die? How did they die? What would it matter if I told you? I don't need to explain how Master treated you. You've done this to both father and daughter, and now you're acting so hypocritically. I'm not afraid to tell you the truth. With your current level of cultivation, seeking revenge is a pipe dream. You know the talent of your fiancé. After decades, you should be able to guess her level of cultivation, the aunt said. Did she really kill master and junior sister? Fang Ru's character wouldn't be that bad. Wang Zuzi said. The aunt wanted to say more, but at that moment, two sword lights flew across the sky. It was Wang Zimin and Wang Na flying back. Wang Zimin, seeing this scene and hearing their subsequent conversation, was somewhat surprised and flustered before descending. Don't listen to what the aunt says. Your little junior sister is called Wang Kinger? Wang Zuzi asked. Wang Zuzi nodded quickly, and Wang Zimin continued. Is your master Grandpa Wang Tan? Wang Zuzi nodded again, and Wang Zimin quickly spoke. Grandpa Wang Kinger, when he was young, because Grandpa Wang Tan had no sons but only her daughter, he took a son-in-law named Fang Feng. I've seen them in the clan. They also died in the battle during the attack of Shangzhuang Valley some time ago, so he didn't die young. As for Grandpa Wang Tan, he died of old age over 20 years ago, unable to enter the foundation building stage, and passed away in meditation. Wang Zuzi was furious upon hearing this. Wang Kimo, why did you lie to me? The aunt chuckled and wiped the blood from the corner of her mouth. You, Wang Zimin, are actually trying to expose my secrets. Don't you see that Wang Lin also knows all this, yet hasn't said a word? Since there's no one in the clan now, and he's a foundation establishment cultivator, I've tried to motivate him and get him to stay. Wang Da glanced over, and Wang Lin gave him a look. Wang Da knew that he knew too, but had guessed the aunt's intentions and kept silent. As for the female relatives, some of them knew, but they also kept silent. It just so happened that Wang Zimin returned at this moment. Fearing Wang Zuzi would go berserk. They hadn't heard the previous words or seen the aunt's previous glance, so they spoke rashly. Wang decided inwardly. With this, it might be even harder for Wang Zuzi to stay. Furious at being tricked by Aunt Wang Kimo, Wang Zuzi rushed in front of Aunt Wang Kimo, grabbed her by the collar, and released his spiritual energy, aiming for a punch to the head, but he didn't strike, his face grimacing. Seventh junior brother, I know your character. For this woman, you abandoned your family and your parents. If I were to persuade you calmly now, you wouldn't stay. What good is this woman? Is it worth it? Besides, Feng Ru isn't bad at all. She's more talented than you and she's interested in you. If you had married her, the family wouldn't be in trouble now, with no one to support it. Wang Zuzi withdrew his hand, but Zisuo pulled him aside. Wang Kimo stood up. The clan nurtured you, and you should repay them. Now that the family is in this state, shouldn't you, as a man, stay and do your best for the family? Wang Zuzi didn't respond, but simply snorted and flew away with Zisuo, to an unknown destination. Wang decided. He had thought it was a past incident of family hatred, but it turned out to be just a ruse. Now, just as he had imagined, the chance that could have kept Wang Zuzi was gone. It was women who made him successful, and women who ruined him. Ah, women. Seeing Wang Zuzi leave, Wang Kimo glared at Wang Zimin and also walked away. Wang Zimin said he felt wronged. You didn't tell me beforehand, how could I know you were trying to provoke him? Wang Da patted him on the shoulder, saying it was none of his business, and that even if he tried to keep him that way, it wouldn't make much difference. Now that he possessed the system, he could naturally strengthen the family. 3 days passed, and neither side paid any attention. The aunt also returned, and upon seeing her leave, the others followed suit. Wang Zuzi still hadn't appeared, and it was unknown where he had gone, but Wang Da could still sense his presence at the mountain gate, so he presumably hadn't left. Perhaps the aunt's words still had some effect on him, but he didn't know what he was thinking. Wang Da left him alone. While the two foundation establishment cultivators were useful to him now, that was only for now. Therefore, Wang Da still had his eye on the system. Now that the women had returned, Wang Da had received many benefits from them. In addition to the gifts they had brought back, he also received 2,000 spirit stones, plus the several hundred contribution points they had contributed. Wang Da exchanged all of his money for spirit stones, amassing a total of over 2,600. With another inflow of money, Wang Da then called Wang Zimin and Wang Lin and asked them to review the list of exercises and then go to the market to buy some. But Wang Zimin didn't speak first. Instead, he said, while building a practice room is important, we shouldn't pursue perfection. Now that the room is basically complete, we should prioritize frugality and only need it for daily practice. Spending spirit stones on building materials now would be a waste. Wang Da didn't argue. He had the system, and these spirit stones would only rust and mold if left there. By the time the 7 children reached a certain level of cultivation and needed the spirit stones, it would be a long time before Wang would be making money again. He only wanted to unlock other achievements in the system to maximize their use. It was difficult to explain this to them, so Wang had to evade them, saying he had his own methods and ideas. For some time now, the two of them had naturally followed Wang's lead. Although the young patriarch was young, he could produce spirit stones without any reason. They both knew how many spirit stones they usually had and were mature. With his words, the two of them fell silent. Seeing their behavior, Wang grew worried, so he asked Wang Zimin to stay and had Wang Lin take him to Heiji Market to buy them himself. Wang Zimin had no choice but to agree and stay to look after the children. Chapter 21 Wandering in Heijifang City. Wang Lin brought Wang to Heiji Market. Heiji Market, though simply called a small market, was enormous, significantly larger than Kangentropi County. Heiji Market was divided into the outer market and the inner market. Because it currently didn't belong to any particular faction, it was originally managed by the 5 Spirit sect. Now that the 5 Spirit sect had collapsed, no one had taken over. The dozen or so nearby clans and 7 or 8 smaller sects essentially conducted their business here. The outer market had no regulations, anyone could enter, whether they were sect disciples, clan members, or independent cultivators. The inner market had cultivation level restrictions. Generally, only those above the 7th level of key training could enter. Ultimately, it was simply a trading venue. The first 3 streets were lined with shops, rented by various clans and sects. The Wang family originally had a shop, but later sold it due to unforeseen circumstances. Everything on these 3 streets was well maintained, with no major flaws. Of course, it wasn't likely you'd find any treasures there, but they were mostly a source of income for certain clans. The next 2 streets were filled with independent cultivators or disciples of clans and sects setting up stalls and auctioning items they rarely used, or items of unknown origin. Wang and Wang Lin first took out their lists, hoping to purchase some items related to the training room. There were quite a few small items, which Wang Lin marked off one by one, preparing to visit each store one by one. The remaining items were large, and even more expensive than the large 5-element spirit gathering array. With their 2,500 yuan, they couldn't afford even a single one. Wang, hoping to be a time traveler and find treasure, wandered the back 2 streets for a long time. However, the system didn't have any settings for this, and he didn't have a deep understanding of treasures. So he only encountered common items or rare ones, whose prices were known to everyone. So Wang then went to the first 3 streets. The system showed that most of the family-sized buildings were priced with spirit stones. Although there were some discrepancies, Wang could still calculate the approximate price. 2,500 spirit stones should be enough to raise his family's scale to 1,500 points. So Wang went through the things Wang Zimin had listed as necessary for the family, besides the training room. He couldn't afford the expensive stuff, and even the smaller items required searching around. So, after half a day of browsing, he only spent a little over 400 spirit stones. Wang was determined to spend all of them so that he could expand the family's scale. Once he reached level 3, he would gain another achievement, which would have a passive effect and would benefit his entire future development. They soon came to another shop. The place was a little quiet, and the clerk at the door didn't pay much attention. Wang and Wang Lin were just wandering around inside alone. "What is this?" Wang asked Wang Lin. "This is for refining spirit stones," Wang Lin replied. "Refining spirit stones? How do you condense them?" Wang asked again. In addition to the spiritual stones produced by various mines, cultivators can also condense spiritual energy through their own cultivation. However, condensing spiritual stones is time-consuming and laborious, and it also interferes with cultivation. At my level 4 key training, I can only condense 2 low-grade spiritual stones in a day with all my strength. Therefore, condensing spiritual stones is generally only done by cultivators who know they have no chance of a breakthrough, or by casual cultivators who are short of money. This magical weapon, on the other hand, records the method used to condense spiritual stones. It allows you to condense spiritual energy or spiritual fluid into spiritual stones, Wang Lin explained. This thing is great. It doesn't take time or effort to condense spiritual stones. If you buy one, you can produce spiritual stones every day without wasting time and effort, Wang said. Clan leader, you don't know. While this thing looks good, it's not so practical. Spirit stones are used as currency in the world of immortal cultivation because they're easy to obtain and, for cultivators, the simplest, making them easy to circulate. Compared to elixirs, spirit stones are insignificant for cultivation. At most, they're just physical spiritual energy. We're still a powerful clan, after all. Although we've lost power, if we hadn't lost our territory, we could have easily cultivated some spiritual herbs, or perhaps trained one or two alchemists, medicine practitioners, and artifact refiners to create some low-level elixirs and magical instruments. That would have been much more profitable than this. Wang Lin explained, hoping to dissuade the clan leader. The clan leader was already experienced and mature, and hearing his words would have likely dispelled the idea. But Wang ignored his words. He felt it would be a waste to keep all these spirit stones in his possession. It would be better to buy this thing. It counts as a building, and it would probably add a lot of building points, allowing him to upgrade his clan's size by another level. I know all you've said, but who among the three of us knows how to refine elixirs and weapons? How long will it take to train those disciples? These spirit stones are useless in the clan now. It's better to buy one back home. First, it's for decoration, and second, it can provide some income. Clan leader, don't get too excited. Although this thing can condense spirit stones, it will break down after a while. These ordinary magic tools are the same. You may not even be able to earn back the cost of repairs. Wang Lin kept persuading him. Wang completely ignored him and called the nearby clerk over. When he heard that he wanted to buy this magic tool, the clerk was overjoyed. This kind of thing was only made by people in the sect to cultivate their experience in refining tools. They kept it in the shop without expecting to sell it. Now that someone took a fancy to it, the clerk was naturally happy. It's priced at 2,000 spirit stones. If I buy it, how long will it take to condense 2,000 spirit stones? Although Wang had made up his mind to buy it, he wasn't a fool. This item would definitely add building points, and it should be quite high, so he wanted to get it at a very low price. It depends on where you use it. If you use it in a place like Fanfic Mountain, where the spiritual energy isn't abundant and the spirit gathering array isn't powerful enough, it'll probably take about 5 years to recoup your investment, the clerk said. Wang Lin, who was nearby, heard this and hurriedly spoke up. 5 years? This is just an ordinary magic weapon. Let alone running it all day for 5 years. Even 2 years will break it down. Repairing it by then will probably cost hundreds of spirit stones. How can you even recoup your investment? The clerk's feeling of being taken advantage of was slightly dampened when he heard there was someone knowledgeable nearby. Since you know this thing is of little use, why are you still trying to make fun of me? Don't listen to him. I really want to buy it. The spiritual energy there is much richer than Fanfic Mountain, and there is also a spiritual spring. How many spirit stones can you produce in a year? Wang asked. A family member? Do you want to buy it back to study and refine it? That's fine. This thing is much more complicated than ordinary magical tools. It would be good to take it back for research. The clerk said. Seeing that he didn't answer his question, Wang repeated it, and the clerk finally said. If there is a spiritual spring, it can produce about 900 spirit stones a year, and it will pay off in a little over 2 years. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 22 Unlock the third level interface. We can produce 900 per year. So, let's put it this way. If you leave this thing here, I'm afraid no one else will buy it except me. Why don't you give me a discount and sell it to me? Wang said. That's the truth. Since the guy behind you knows this, I won't lie to you. 1,700 spirit stones. The raw materials, including the refined iron, spirit wood, and 100 flower stone, are about the same price. I'm not making any profit. This was originally made by a weapon refining disciple in our sect, the clerk said. Wang looked at Wang Lin, who nodded. He's right. This thing can be refined. The raw materials only cost about 1,500 spirit stones. Excluding the time it takes, and since it's in a store, 1,700 is a reasonable price. But clan leader, do we really need to buy this thing back? 1,600, I'll pay immediately if you agree, Wang said. Seeing that Wang ignored him, Wang Lin said nothing more. The clerk hesitated for a moment, then nodded, and the two quickly completed the transaction. After strolling around for a while longer, the two returned to the mountain gate. This time, Wang De had gained a good understanding of the cultivation items, a rewarding experience. He had wanted to ask Wang Lin to help him install them, but Wang Lin, somewhat annoyed, was reluctant. So Wang De did it himself, and Wang Lin went down the mountain, apparently to discuss the matter with Wang Zimin. The women of the Wang family had previously returned and built a small kitchen at the spiritual spring. It wasn't too big, just a house, but it was more elaborate than what Wang De and his team had built. Behind it, Wang De, leaning against the wooden wall of the small kitchen, drew water from the spiritual spring and installed the magic tool. The magic tool, though seemingly only the size of a fingernail, transformed into something larger than the entire spiritual spring with a slight infusion of spiritual energy. Once it was complete, Wang De brought out all the other items, placing them where they belonged. By the time everything was assembled, it was almost evening. The two still hadn't come up, and no one knew what they were talking about at the foot of the mountain. Wang De knew the importance of unity. He thought to himself that although he had the system and knew the benefits, the two of them certainly didn't know. Although he wouldn't say anything at the moment, they would inevitably have some grudges in the future. But he had no choice. He had really developed the family, so they naturally had nothing to say. So there was no need to explain, and it would only waste his time. He opened the system and saw that the family scale had indeed been upgraded. Family location, Kingetropy Mountain Family Head, Wang De. Family scale, level 3, level 4, family level, 9th rank. Family members, 12. Family contribution, 0. Family reputation, 2398. He had exchanged all his contributions for spirit stones, so it became 0 points. Wang De hurriedly clicked on the family scale again. Family size level 1, increases the cultivation speed of all family members by 1. Family size level 2, increases the spiritual energy density of all family locations by 1. Family size level 3, increases the comprehension of all family members by 1. Family points, 1583, 5000. Small spiritual spring plus 50, 11 houses plus 10 kitchen, magic instruments and kitchen utensils, plus 30 spiritual stone condenser plus 402 courtyards plus 33 small 5-element spirit gathering arrays plus 301 large 5-element spirit gathering array plus 500, 305 elements cushions plus 60 spiritual fruit garden, seed state, plus 98 spiritual bodhisattva forest, sprouting state, plus 3 miniature flower beds plus 2 forest plus 520 purifying heart grasses plus 3.8. The concept of increasing the comprehension of all family members by 1 was of vague one, leaving Chen Ran somewhat puzzled. There were theories of spiritual roots, talent, luck, and, of course, comprehension, but none of them had specific values, leaving Chen Ran unsure of just how much the comprehension bonus would increase. However, he knew that having this passive skill was definitely better than his previous state without it. These things were long-term strategies, and their effects couldn't be seen overnight. It took time to demonstrate their true potential. Wang De hadn't expected that the ant's stay had significantly expanded the family during these few days. Reaching level 4 wouldn't be possible in a short time, as 5,000 points was required, a significant amount. However, quality, not quantity, was crucial. For example, the large 5 spirit gathering formation offered significant bonuses, yet it took up very little space. Unlike the spirit stone condenser, which offered only a small bonus, it still required considerable space. The family has reached level 3, unlocking the building upgrade interface. A system voice sounded, making Wang De overjoyed. It seemed that his hard work in developing one thing was very useful. He didn't expect to be able to unlock the 3rd level interface from the 2nd level interface. Wang De quickly found the upgrade option in the upper left corner of the 2nd level interface and clicked it. Small spiritual spring, level 1, 50 contributions required to upgrade, house, Wang De, level 1, 1 contribution required to upgrade, house, Wang Zimin, level 1, 1 contribution required to upgrade, here X9, kitchen, Jian, level 1, 40 contributions required to upgrade, spiritual stone condenser, level 1, 100 contributions required to upgrade, courtyard, unowned, level 1, 5 contributions required to upgrade, courtyard, Wang Ziazan, Wang Zai, level 1, 5 contributions required to upgrade, small 5-element spiritual gathering array, Wangda, level 1, 100 contributions required. Wangda looked at them one by one. All the buildings listed could be upgraded, but they required contributions. And he had just exchanged all his contributions for spiritual stones that morning and used them to buy things. This was awkward. He wanted to try out the effects of the upgrades, but there was no way. Even if it was just a little bit, he could upgrade one house and see how it worked. It seemed he would have to wait until tomorrow, when he had collected a wave of contributions, to try again. However, the contribution points required for upgrading here are obviously different from the points awarded for building. While there's a rough correspondence, there's also a subtle difference. Wangda, noticing the two men hadn't yet descended the mountain, glanced down and saw lights on in the courtyard, then fell asleep. The next day, Wang Zimin hesitated before knocking at Wangda's door. Wangda slept that day, not cultivating. It's not that cultivators don't need sleep, rather, they can substitute for sleep in a state of cultivation. However, Wangda's cultivation wasn't high, and he occasionally needed sleep to replenish his energy, so he emerged somewhat disheveled. Patriarch, you're sleeping. I thought you were cultivating. I'll wait outside for a moment until you're dressed. Wang Zimin bowed and withdrew. Wangda repeatedly told him not to bow, but Wang Zimin remained so, unlike Wang Lin. He explained that even though the clan now consisted of only 3 people and 7 children, it was still a clan. Etiquette and rules must not be lost, or else the clan would exist in name only. What makes a family is not only the same blood and surname, but also the rules. Without rules, there is no order. The clan leader is the clan leader, the elders are the elders, and the disciples are the disciples. Otherwise, when the clan grows in number, without rules, it will be like a pile of loose sand. Wangda followed his advice from then on and never said much. When Wangda came out dressed, Wang Zimin bowed respectfully again. Chapter 23, 300 years old witch. I suppose you came to me because of the spirit stone condenser I bought yesterday for 1,600 spirit stones? Wangda asked. Wang Zimin nodded. The clan leader is the head of the clan, and he's young and promising. I don't feel I can match him, but I still have to offer my advice. I know, but I did this for my own reasons I can't share with you. I hope you can believe me. I'm not just seeking pleasure, nor do I lack long-term considerations and far-reaching ideas, Wangda said. Spending 1,600 spirit stones on a spirit stone condenser was worth it. Not only did it upgrade the clan system to level 3, but it also gained a passive skill and unlocked a 3rd-level interface, all great benefits, but he just couldn't tell him. Then I have nothing to say, but the development of the family is of paramount importance. I believe the clan leader's heart must be the same as mine, but the clan leader is young after all, and he has to think over everything again and again. Some things are actually different from how they look. Now it is just spending 1,600 spirit stones to buy a spirit stone condenser. If the family prospers and revives 100 years later, the clan leader will know how difficult it is to manage a family. Not to mention that everyone has different personalities, even small matters such as daily expenses can easily cause trouble if you are not careful. Okay, I understand. Wang Dexing walked to the front of the house. I simply want to say that as long as I remain patriarch, the family's revival will be hastened. You just said it would take 100 years for the family to regain its prosperity. What I'm saying is that with me here, the family will surpass its previous achievements within 3 years, and establish itself in eastern Yizhao within 5. As for what will happen 5 years from now, it will absolutely exceed your imagination. Patriarch, ambition is certainly good, but cultivation is inherently against the will of heaven, and innate spiritual roots are predetermined. Unless you can marry the palace master of the 9 heavens' mysterious immortal palace and give birth to a child with supreme spiritual roots, how can you possibly establish yourself in Yizhao? Wang Zimin said. 9 heavens' mysterious immortal palace? This was what Wangda was curious about. It's the premier sect in Yizhao, formidable and unrivaled in the state, Wang Zimin said. This small sect is nothing to worry about. You mentioned supreme spiritual roots, isn't that Wang Zinghu? Has my Wang family ever produced a person with supreme spiritual roots in the past few hundred years? Wangda asked. This question left Wang Zimin speechless. Wangda smiled and continued. Don't you think the spiritual energy in this mountain has become much richer? Wang Zimin pondered, and this was indeed the case. Have you noticed your cultivation progressing much faster recently? Wang De continued to ask. This time, Wang Zimin's mouth dropped open. Could this all be the clan leader's doing? I guess so. You must never tell anyone else. I did see Grandmaster Wang Longxing in my dream. He saw our clan's decline, so he sent his spirit to help me, Wang De whispered to him. Patriarch, don't talk nonsense. These words may fool mortals. I'm not a cultivator who knows everything, but I do know a little bit about many things. Grandmaster Wang Longxing hasn't even cultivated his primordial spirit, so how could he possibly have a spirit? Wang Zimin said. Anyway, no matter who it is, there's this person who's secretly helping us. So, I'm doing all these unusual things at their behest, Wang De said. Wang Zimin reflected that since the family's calamity, changes had indeed occurred everywhere. First, a disciple with a supreme fire spirit root was born in the mortal realm, and then there were many changes within the mountain sect. His own cultivation had indeed surpassed all others before. Recently, he had felt a significant improvement in his cultivation after just a few days of practice. However, given the family's state, he had no desire to cultivate. Therefore, he now believed Wang De's words without a doubt. Perhaps from now on, no matter what the clan leader did, he should obey him. However, if it harmed the family, he would still stand up for him. Just now, I heard you say who the palace master of the Jiushan Zuangxin Palace is? Wang De interrupted him, noticing he was lost in thought. Wang Zimin replied casually, she's a great beauty, admired by all the cultivators in Yizhao. Beauty? How old? What does she look like? What's her cultivation level? Is she married? Wang De asked casually. Her looks are naturally impeccable. As for her age, she's probably over 300 years old. Wang De quipped before Wang Zimin finished. What's so good about a 300-year-old witch? Although she's over 300 now, her cultivation is so profound that she only looks like a young woman in her 20s, Wang Zimin said. I assume she's unmarried, Wang De said. Wang Zimin nodded. That's just your conjecture. An old witch like this, over 300 years old, has probably had more men than any woman we've ever met. She's so mature and calculating, she's long since let go of all the sexual strife. So, I have no interest in such a person. I have no interest in them, no friendship or hate. What's the point of them? They're worse than a child, Wang De said. Perhaps. The Five Spirit sect has produced many cultivators over 200 or 300 years old before. All of them cultivated in the mountains, unconcerned with the secular world or the sect, Wang Zimin said. By the way, what's it all? Just understand it as the same as that palace master. Oh, I see. But the clan leader is only in his teens, so it's normal for him to like young girls. I prefer more mature types. Then go marry the palace master of the Nine Heavens' mysterious immortal palace. I'm a good match for her. Don't worry, you'll be a good match one day. Really? Wang Zimin blushed. The two chatted casually, and Wang De sent him away. He then opened the system. He collected 28 contribution points for the day, which was a bit less than yesterday. Most of them were from Wang Zuzi and his wife, though he didn't know where they were now. He clicked on the second level of the family size interface, then clicked on the upgrade. Wang De hesitated. What exactly would this upgrade bonus be? Should he try it with his own house first? Or Wang Zimin's or Wang Lin's next door? No, if I try with their houses, maybe they will notice it when they come back at night, and that will inevitably cause trouble. So why not try with my own house? House, Wang De, level 1, 1 contribution required to upgrade, click to upgrade, nothing happens. Wang De saw that there was still a little contribution on it. House, Wang De, level 2, 1 contribution required to upgrade. Wang De walked around the house 3 times and looked inside. But there seemed to be no changes. Could it be because the level is too low? And it only takes a little contribution to upgrade, so obviously the improvement will not be very obvious. Wang De clicked continuously until it was displayed above. House, Wang De, level 10, 2 contribution required to upgrade. Chapter 24, Expensive Mingxiang. This time, it required 2 contribution points to upgrade, and his house had already reached level 10. While the exterior appeared unchanged, Wang De ran inside to take a closer look. The spiritual energy was surprisingly rich, leaving Wang De awestruck. Although the upgrade appeared unchanged, the house was tightly trapping spiritual energy, only slightly less than the spiritual energy gathered by the small 5-element spirit gathering array inside. Now, the spiritual energy gathered by the 5-element spirit gathering array was even more concentrated, comparable to those of mid-level 5-element spirit gathering arrays. He hadn't expected such a benefit from spending just 10 contribution points. A mid-level small 5-element spirit gathering array would cost around 1,500 spirit stones. Looking to the side, the simple furniture in the house was beginning to change. Ordinary wood could actually absorb a small amount of spiritual energy. While still far inferior to spiritual wood, its ability to absorb spiritual energy was extraordinary, a simplified version of spiritual wood. Furniture made of low-grade spiritual wood, just a small stool, would cost hundreds of spirit stones. Wang brought the stool out again. It hadn't transformed into an ordinary object, but instead still retained its spiritual energy. He was thrilled by the sudden transformation, but the remaining spiritual energy was too weak. Once he took it out, it would likely be eroded by time, losing its spiritual properties. Besides, it didn't have any spiritual properties. Only 18 contribution points remained, and Wang invested them all in his own house. For now, he could only focus on himself. Once his cultivation level reached a higher level, he could consider others. A family patriarch with a cultivation level barely higher than a child wouldn't be a good idea. Wang also had some plans in mind. Once his cultivation level reached a higher level, the patriarch option in the system would likely create a secondary interface, allowing him to enhance his abilities through the system. As for what that interface would hold, he didn't yet know. House, Wang, level 19, 2 contributions required to upgrade, contributions. 0. Today's contributions were all spent in a flash, but Wang wasn't the least bit sad, but rather happy. It seemed he would have to save all his future contributions to upgrade these buildings. Exchanging them for spirit stones would be a waste, the worst kind of waste. Admiring the changes in his new house, Wang sat cross-legged on his cushion and began to cultivate. Now that he had acquired this precious house, he should cultivate diligently, raising his realm early so that his family would have some security, right? After a day of cultivation, Wang felt far more refreshed than he normally would after 4 or 5 days, and his cultivation had increased significantly. He felt a subtle sense of expansion in his Danshan, a warm current coursing through him. At this rate, reaching the 4th level of key training wouldn't be long. This value for money excited Wang. After all, spending dozens of contributions to increase his cultivation speed by 4 or 5 times would have been a significant expense. Furthermore, the elixirs were only one-time use, while this upgrade was supposed to be permanent. And most importantly, within the 2nd level interface, 11 houses plus 30 points became 30 points. This way, upgrading a building could be considered expanding its size, allowing for repeated benefits. Wang only regretted not saving his contribution points. Otherwise, they would probably have accumulated hundreds of points by now, and if used to upgrade buildings, he could have upgraded many more. As the sky darkened, Wang Lin came up. Seeing Wang had just finished practicing, he casually said, "Tomorrow it's Brother Zimon's turn to lead them. I'll be back practicing." Wang responded, and saw Wang Lin enter the house. Wang had been about to return to practice, but then he smelled a delicate fragrance. Curious, he quickly followed the scent's direction. It was coming from Wang Lin's room, and Wang couldn't help but knock on the door. Wang Lin didn't greet them with formalities. Unlike his subjects, Wang waived the formalities, so he did. They were of the same generation, and although Wang was mature, he still felt a little uncomfortable with the rituals of a clan leader who was younger and more advanced than him. "I smell a delicate fragrance. Is it coming from your room?" Wang asked. Wang Lin nodded and invited Wang in. Wang saw that next to the cushion, a small 5-element spirit gathering array had been activated. On the table, not far away, an elegant metal instrument, thick and semicircular at the bottom and hollowed out at the top, was carved with flowers, plants, animals, and birds at the joints. Although small, it was intricately carved. A puff of green smoke rose from it, and Wang smelled it, which was exactly the same fragrance. "What is this, and why does it make me feel so relaxed and happy?" Wang asked. "This is Mingzhu incense. While it can't be used directly for cultivation, it can calm a cultivator's mind and relax their body and mind, allowing them to reach an optimal state. I was a little restless after teaching 7 children today, so I lit one," Wang Lin explained. "Mingzhu incense is truly a good thing. Do you have any more? Give me some so I can light one while I cultivate, Wang asked. Seeing Wang Lin's hesitation, Wang realized that he didn't know the price or origin of the incense, so it wouldn't be a good idea to rush into it. Even as the clan leader, he shouldn't say such cheap, exploitative words, so he added, if you don't have any, I'll go buy some. I have 3 pieces left. I'll give you 2, clan leader. I can't give you the remaining piece because I need it myself, Wang Lin said. Seeing that he only had 3 pieces, Wang didn't take it, but continued. I was just joking. You only have 3, so I can't take yours. Tell me where you bought them, and I'll use the spirit stones to buy a few myself. If clan leader wants to buy something like mine, you probably won't be able to find it. Ordinary Mingzhu Xiang would cost around 100 spirit stones each at Tiji Market, Wang Lin said. Wang De was stunned. He had been here for a while, and this item was only for cultivating the mind, not for actual cultivation, yet he hadn't expected it to fetch such a high price. Seeing Wang De's surprise, Wang Lin explained. Clan leader, these items are usually given to the children of large clans or prominent families. Our family, in its current state, can't afford them. We should prioritize ordinary cultivation supplies. That's right, I'm just curious. Buying something like this now would be a complete waste and extravagance, Wang De replied. You said you can't buy these 3 pieces anywhere else. So where did you get them? Wang De's words reminded him of his good friend, Fairies Hu Ayao, and a look of understanding flashed across his face. Wang Lin blushed. This was made by Fairies Hu Ayao. She's a casual cultivator, without a powerful family or clan to support her. I don't know where she learned the incense-making method, but she sells some ordinary ones at Tiji Market for spirit stones. As for these, they were specially made for me. Clan leader, don't underestimate the incense because it's expensive, but many people buy it. This thing is useful for cultivators practicing special techniques or those in seclusion, helping them quickly enter a state of retreat. Looking at her strength at the 7th level of key training, you can tell that this incense will fetch a lot of money. Chapter 25, Visit from the 7 Major Sects Alliance. I see. You're not young anymore. Did you try what I said last time? This Fairies Hu Ayao can make a special bamboo incense for you. I guess she thinks you're more than just an ordinary friend, Wang De said. Wang Lin lowered his head, pulled up a chair, and sat down with Wang De. Clan leader, you don't know that survival is not easy for independent cultivators in the outside world, and cultivation is also not easy, especially for a single independent cultivator, especially a woman. Making friends with families and disciples of the sect is also a way to survive. Although I have a good relationship with her, it's just my personal opinion. And this special bamboo incense wasn't just for me. She has many friends, and her strength and family background are far greater than mine. Then has she ever engaged in any immoral or promiscuous behavior? Wang De asked. Wang Lin patted Wang De's head. You little thing, even though you're as tall as me, you're just a little kid. What's going on in your mind all day? Wang De smiled. My birthday is in a few days, and I'll be 14. There are plenty of people in the mortal world who have children by the age of 16 or 17. How could I not know this? Tell me. Wang Lin was helpless. Wang De was the clan leader after all. She doesn't have any of that. She's a very self-disciplined person, and she wouldn't indulge herself just to make friends. If that's the case, I wouldn't be interested in her, would I? That's fine. I know you're shy, and you have a low self-esteem, and you're a bit overweight. If you're embarrassed, I'll call my people tomorrow, and we'll ask for you, Wang De said. Don't, Wang Lin quickly waved away. There are plenty of people pursuing her, and I'm not stupid. I can tell whether she's interested in me or not. So is she interested or not? Wang De asked. Wang Lin looked up, thinking. There should be some, but it's more of a friendship than a companionship. Then it's settled. I just found a reason to ask, not to propose marriage, just to test the waters. If you think it's inconvenient for 2 men like us, I can go to the Liu family and find an aunt to go in your place. How about that? Wang De asked. Please don't. I'm afraid if this gets out, we won't even be friends anymore, Wang Lin said. Right now, I just want to focus on cultivation, improve my cultivation as soon as possible, and develop my family. Then, I'll naturally have more confidence and won't be afraid of other competitors. But with my family's current state, it's hard to say how long it will take to develop. Besides, my own talent is extremely poor. It's already difficult for me to cultivate to her level, let alone surpass her. Don't say that. You're just insecure. You should have more confidence. I have ways to develop the family, but you yourself must work hard on your cultivation. Even if others really see interest in you, a cultivator of the lower third level will still have some reservations, Wang De said. Seeing Wang Lin lower his head, Wang De walked out, closed the door, and said something inside. Cultivation is important, but don't let others take it away. I'll give you a day off tomorrow, so go visit her. After Wang De finished speaking, he also returned to the room. After a sleepless night, Wang De and Wang Lin were both practicing hard in their own rooms. Suddenly, all night long, Wang De had not yet come out of his practice state when he heard a knock on the door outside. Wang De immediately stopped and went out. He saw that it was Wang Zimin who came up. His face was still a little anxious, and he couldn't help but feel a little confused. Clan leader, there are two people at the foot of the mountain, wearing the same clothes. I don't know which family they are from. They said they want to visit the Congentropi Wang family. Wang Zimin explained the situation. Down the mountain? The other party is not a cultivator? Wang De asked, grasping the key point. They are cultivators, and their cultivation level is around the 7th level of key training. Wang Zimin said. Then there's no need to rush. Since they're cultivators, our family doesn't have a large protective formation. They didn't fly in on swords, but waited at the foot of the mountain. They're clearly being polite. This so-called visit must be a formal one, Wang De said. Wang Zimin thought about it and realized it was indeed the case. Recalling those people from the past few days, they had all flown in. The clan leader's thoughts were beyond his comprehension. Wang Lin, who was nearby, was also awakened from his cultivation by the two men's conversation. He hurried out, listened, and flew down with them. At the foot of the mountain, a massive stone was engraved with 4 large characters, Congentropi Wang family. There had originally been a massive dragon gate in front of the stone, but now it was in a state of disrepair. Seeing the dragon gate in its current state was embarrassing for Wang De, who had just arrived here for the first time. He decided to save up some spirit stones and have it repaired in the next few days. I am Wang De, the current head of the Congentropi Wang family. What brings you here? Wang De greeted them. Although both were key refining level 7 disciples, Wang De showed some respect upon seeing him, and quickly returned the greeting. We are inner disciples of the Mulan sect. We've come here primarily to discuss the 7 sects alliance with the Wang family patriarch. So you're disciples of the Mulan sect? You're welcome. Wang De waved, ushering the two toward the mountain gate. Seeing such courtesy and politeness, and not bullying others, Wang De naturally had to return the favor. An empty courtyard on the mountain was now being used as a hall. At Wang De's command, Wang Zimin and Wang Lin went to retrieve some spiritual teas given by the aunts and sisters a few days ago, as well as some spiritual melons and fruits left by their aunt, to serve as a treat. Since we left the Mulan sect, my 2 brothers have visited over a dozen families. The Wang family suffered the most, but they are the most polite and open-minded, one of the disciples complimented, prompting Wang De to reciprocate. The exchange of words led to a few casual conversations. After several conversations, the two naturally viewed Wang De differently. Not only was he only a teenager, but even the adult patriarchs of other clans were not as mature and steady. His manners and words were quite appropriate, yet also somewhat surprising. There was always a deep meaning in his words. Despite their amazement, they still had to get things done. So, the two of them took out the documents from the 7 Sects Alliance. Currently, the eastern part of Yizhao is weak. Ever since the battle between the 5 Spirit Sect and the Upper Zhuanggu, the 2 major eastern factions have fallen, with countless cultivators lost, including many high-ranking ones. The Xianyan sect in the southeast now occupies nearly half of the eastern region, and several northern sects are eyeing it covetously, hoping to swallow up our eastern region. If it weren't for the pressure from the central provincial government, eastern Yizhao would have fallen long ago, and we, the local factions, would naturally not be able to survive. The local factions in the east are all led by our Mulan sect in this critical moment. Our sect, unwilling to plunder their resources or see the east fall, has formed the 7 Sects Alliance to unite the local eastern forces and resist the foreign enemy. After hearing these words, Wang De could almost guess that while his Wang family could be considered a faction, it was probably not even as powerful as a single independent cultivator. For example, Wang Lin's good friend, Fairies Hu Ayao, was at the 7th level of key training. If Wang Zuzi were not here, the three of them would not even be able to defeat her. So, after we join the Seven Sects Alliance, what do we need to do? Wang Da asked. Nothing. No one wants to see the East fall, so our sect formed this Seven Sects Alliance to prevent infighting among the local forces in the East, which would weaken them and make them unable to resist foreign enemies, the disciple said. This is a good thing. Unlike the Shangzong Valley and the Five Spirit sect in the past, they only knew how to exploit others and only provided a certain amount of protection, Wang Da said. End of this chapter. Thank you so much for reading until the end. Don't forget to give it a like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription or donation encourages us to continue. Thank you all. See you in the next video.